Good afternoon, or evening, or morning, everyone. I don't know the time zones. Welcome back to a new podcast. My name is Ian Say, but most people know me as Tacho. And today I have the pleasure to talk with Maximilian Krchmar, better known as Max Ketchum. It is truly incredible how big of an icon and influence Max Ketchum is for the community. We are talking about a Brawl Veteran who, by the time of Smash 4, he was getting impressive results at majors during the first few years of its release, being known as a hidden boss of the Tristate Scene, mainly in New Jersey. And since those days, he has been known as one of the best commentators of the Smash global scene. And even if now with Ultimate he has stopped competing much for the Ultimate's meta, Max has been closely involved with organizing some of the best tournament series in Gommel in Canada, and Let's Make Big Moves in the States with another name right nowadays, But it is truly a jack of all trades, and I'm so ecstatic to interviewing him right now. Max Ketchum, how are you?
Yo, thank you for the kind words, bro. Thanks for having me on. I hope everyone out there is doing good as well. We're live on Twitch as well, right?
Yeah, we're live on Twitch right now. Yeah.
Sick. Yo, so what's up, chat? And yeah, I'm stoked to get into this, man.
Awesome. So, do you want to start with the questions?
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. So, I want to start the interview knowing a little bit more about your past with the franchise itself. How long have you been playing Smash casually, and how did you eventually found out and enter into the competitive scene?
For sure. So I've been playing since Smash 64 came out. 25 years, I guess, that makes that. I'm 31, so I was playing that on the N64 as a kid. And I honestly found the competitive scene pretty soon after as well. I've been following it since actually I think my Smashboards account is about to turn 20 years old. So yeah, I found out about competitive Smash in like 2003 or 2004 from the GameFAQs forums. I was just like a little kid. I was looking for tips on how to raise my Chow in Sonic Adventure 2. And then like I saw the other top forum for GameCube games was Melee. And I just clicked on that because I was like, oh, I want to learn some new strats and get better at Melee too. So I could beat all my friends. And I found like Smash boards and people talking about tournaments and wave dashing and all that shit. So I'm like, whoa, holy fuck. And I'm like 11 years old, 10 years old looking at this shit. And I just start trying to learn how to do it. My computer was super shitty back then. So I couldn't watch VODs. You had to do all kinds of complicated stuff to watch VODs of gameplay because there was no YouTube.
Yeah.
And I just like couldn't get it to work on my shitty computer. So I tried to replicate everything that I saw written in like these text guides on the advanced techniques and stuff. But since I was so young, I never like actually tried to go to a tournament or anything until 2007, where I went to my first event, like literally this week. Like Saturday would be the 17-year anniversary of my first tournament, and it was Melee because that was all that was out at the time. I got back into it like really heavily because Brawl was on the horizon, so I wanted to really like get heavy into Smash and be prepared for the new game, so I could be a top player or something like that.
Cool. So Sonic Adventure 2 got you into Smash.
It did.
How interesting! Like one of the best games of the current generation is got you into Smash. That's amazing. So how was your first tournament? I mean, how did you find out about this event? How was the how did you projected your thoughts into it, and how did you eventually got? I mean, how well did you got into that event?
So around this time, like late 2007, YouTube was definitely like out and kind of a well-established thing. So I was just like scrolling through YouTube one day, and I found the MLG tournament VODs from like the 2006 MLG circuit.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh wow, like somebody uploaded this stuff. And I was a couple years out of the game in terms of like taking Melee super seriously. Because once I did start playing my friends and like doing all the ATs and stuff, I was just beating everybody and we stopped playing as much. So again, once Brawl was on the horizon, I started getting back into it, found the VODs on YouTube. I'm like, you know what, man, let me try to go to one of these things. Like I'm old enough now. I'm like 14. I could probably ask my parents to drive me to one and they wouldn't think I was crazy. So I went on the tournament listings section of Smashboards and just scrolled around like, my region, and I found something that was pretty close. And basically my friend who I always used to play with, his parents were going holiday shopping right in that area. So they agreed to take us, and we just practiced a bunch and wanted to, be as good as we could for this tournament. And yeah, we ended up going there. I got to play one set of pools before the friend that I came with had a seizure. We didn't know he was epileptic. Nobody knew. He didn't know. And we had to leave the tournament and go to the hospital like immediately. So, very fortunately though, in the time that I actually got to spend there, I met this dude who was a bit older than us, and he had a car, and he lived somewhat close to me, and he was down to like come over and practice and drive me to tournaments and stuff. We ended up just becoming quick friends. Um, we exchanged our AIM names with each other and stayed in touch, and he ended up becoming like my practice partner in my ride to tournaments once Brawl came out, and we just went to like everything from there. Like for the rest is history after Brawl came out, basically.
Hmm. Okay, a couple of things from this. First and foremost, was this friend of the seizure okay after that?
Yeah. It
Okay,
was scary at the time for
of
sure.
course.
Like he like bit his tongue when he went down too, so he was like
Oh
bleeding all over the
shit.
place. But it wasn't nearly as bad as you would think. He's doing great now. I was the best man at his wedding a couple years ago. He's
That's
got a
sweet.
kid now. Like he still keeps up with Smash a little bit, mostly just like because he knows I'm into it and
Hmm.
he likes watching and playing casually and stuff. Well, like competitive casual
Yeah, of
kind of
course.
thing.
That's sweet.
But yeah, no, he's doing good. He ended up just being diagnosed with epilepsy, getting seizure medication, taking a while away from video games, but then
Yeah.
once he was like stable, then he just started gaming again. Never really came back to Smash in the same way, but
Of course.
we went to a couple Brawl tournaments and stuff together too. Like once he was clear to play, we definitely kept it going.
Okay, cool. And who was this practice buddy that you eventually knew from this tournament onwards?
So his tag was Rhyme,
Mm,
Rhyme.
yeah.
He played Samus in Brawl. He was low key like one of the best Samuses to ever do it. But after a while, like he had some stuff happen in his family, and like he
Mm,
couldn't really go to events regularly.
yeah.
So he started to not attend as much. And I got old enough to drive myself to tournaments too.
Yeah.
So like I didn't need to depend on him to go, which is why I was able to keep attending.
Hmm.
But yeah, he's such a nice guy. I mean, we still keep in touch from time to time, and he's just a really good ass dude, man. And he was a great Samus player, man. Like I wish people could have seen him. He was like a high mid level player in Melee,
Hmm.
and then when Brawl came out, like even though he played such a shitty character, he was still able to take names,
Hmm.
and everyone was impressed with the Samus. But he just kind of faded out of the scene after a while.
Yeah, I get it. So, where does the tag Max Ketchum comes from? I mean, it must be from your full name, but just wondering.
Yeah, no, it definitely is from that. So my original tag was Doom. I loved
Yeah.
Invader Zim as a kid, so
Okay.
that it was like the Doom song from the first episode. Um, so that's why I was Doom. And then in college, my roommate's girlfriend, like the first weekend that she came to visit him, I was gone at a tournament or something. But I had that old 1990s Pokemon bedspread with like Ash and Pikachu on the pillowcase. And like that was just in my room while she was visiting and I wasn't there. And she left like a little note saying like, "Hey, Max Ketchum," because Ash Ketchum is right there, and my name is Max. And she's like, "I came to visit this weekend, but you weren't here. Can't wait to meet you. Zach says you're really cool. See you later." And then I was like, "Huh, Max Ketchum, like that kind of has a nice flow to it." But I didn't change my tag right then and there. I left it as Doom for another couple years,
Hmm.
and then when Smash 4 was coming out, I went to E3 and I played the demo,
Hmm.
and Pikachu was my favorite character to use in that version, just
Yeah.
because there weren't too many characters available. I was like, yo, fuck it, I might main Pikachu in this game. Maybe I'll just make my tag Max Ketchum, because Doom is kind of like a try hard tag, and like I'm 21 years old now, not 9 when I made that tag initially. So maybe I'll just rebrand. Kind of. Also, I'd been following the FGC a lot,
Hmm.
and everyone there is like Justin Wong, Chris G, like shit like that. Ryan Hart, guys with their full names as their tag. And
Hmm.
I was like, yeah, I kind of like that. I kind of think that's cool. And also, it's just like, it's kind of liberating to be referred to as your real name at tournaments. Like, I don't have to have somebody calling me like, "Oh, Swagmaster 69. We have to play in bracket, bro." It's just easier to like turn around and notice when someone says my actual name.
Yeah.
So for several reasons, I changed it from Doom to Max Ketchum in 2014.
Okay. I got it. So talking about Brawl for a little bit, I'm not gonna indulge into the reasons of why picking Meta Knight and how did you feel about said characters, because I mean it is the best and most broken character that has even ever been put in Smash. But one thing that I found interesting about your Brawl competitive journey was your Wario for a little bit. So what drove you into sometimes picking this particular character?
So two things. There was one period before even like there was a real movement to ban Meta Knight.
Hmm.
I wanted to ban myself from playing Meta Knight for a little bit just to get better at
Yeah,
Smash overall.
yeah,
So that's where it came from first. I actually played more Falco, I'd say, in like singles,
yeah.
but I did definitely play Wario a good amount. He was the first character that I was like switching off Meta Knight to play it. Then I realized I like Falco more. But then I was just like, all right, man, like I want to get PR'd again, so let me just go back to Meta Knight. And I did. But first, before Meta Knight was ever banned in singles, they started banning double Meta Knight in doubles. And one of my frequent team partners was Shadow. He was a really good Meta Knight player from Staten Island.
Yeah.
He also played Wario and he was just better than me in general, but his Wario was better than mine and his Meta Knight was better than mine. But we just had the option to put any combination of Meta Knight and Wario on our team. And Wario is like completely broken in doubles or very strong at least back in Brawl. So just having that flexibility was clutch.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I really like doubles in all the games, honestly. So I figured like let me pick up basically the guaranteed second best character in the game for doubles.
Mm-hmm.
So if I team with a Meta Knight or even if I just want to play Wario casually, like I have that option and I know how to use them.
Yeah, I get it. So were you pro banning Meta Knight despite maining the character?
Yeah, I actually was. I thought the game would just be more interesting if he got banned. And when there was a vote to ban him, I voted to ban him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know, it just never really stuck. Like a lot of tournaments banned him, but a good amount didn't. And the biggest tournament, Apex, never banned Meta Knight. So I was like, you know what, man? Like I might as well just keep playing the guy. And I think I gradually kind of shifted my stance to be like, I don't care if Meta Knight is legal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in my opinion, the biggest problem with Brawl was Ice Climbers. I think Meta Knight, for as broken as he was, like he at least could fight Ice Climbers.
Yeah.
And I would way rather see a tournament that's a million Meta Knight Dittos than like more Ice Climbers players. So,
Yes.
that said, like I don't even think he destroyed Ice Climbers necessarily. It just actually felt like a fair fight, or a more fair fight against them. So, point being that unbanning Meta Knight, I think, did achieve its purpose, and Ice Climbers fortunately did not take over the meta, even though there were still like a bunch of really good ones. He kind of kept them at bay a little bit. So I'm fine with the fact that he got unbanned later, and it probably spared us a much worse fate.
So how do you define your competitive journey through Brawl?
At the beginning, I was fucking ass, man. I think like everybody is kind of bad when they first start going to stuff. But I feel like I got good quickly because I got exposed to like I think this is really the thing that people who have never gone to a tournament don't understand. It's like once you start going, there's just a way that competitive players play. I guess it's kind of easier to find that out now from home on like Elite Smash or just from watching VODs. But when you get thrown in the ring with these guys who are playing with their brains, basically, you start to realize how you should be playing and you level up very quickly. So getting over that initial hump, I think, didn't take me very long. I was like, oh, I see. Like, I need to be playing footsies and making reads and not have habits, just basic stuff like that. I had a lot of great like influences back in Brawl. Maybe not in terms of who they were as people, but in terms of gameplay, like just seeing strong players being like, oh, okay, like I'm going to copy you. They definitely made me better. So then it took like, I don't know, it probably took like less than a year for me to get ranked initially. Obviously the scene was a lot smaller back then, but I stayed ranked for almost every season that I was actually going to tournaments in. I'd be ranked in New Jersey. But I was never truly one of the best players. I had some great wins. Like I beat the Buzz in Brawl, which was I think probably my best one. I beat this guy Fatal. He was the best player in New England, one of the best snakes in the world.
Yeah.
And I had some good results in doubles as well. Top 8'd in MLG with this guy Big Lou. He was the Luigi player that I don't think really ever came back to the scene. But yeah, I definitely like felt like I underperformed and could have been better and all that stuff. But I was solid, but not like a top threat.
Understandable. So, what were your thoughts on PM and now P plus?
Oh, I fucking love that shit, man. When Brawl was like starting to die off,
Yeah.
really in the last year before Smash Four, or like the last couple months before Smash Four, I actually started mainly playing PM
Yeah.
because I was bored. I didn't really enter Brawl much after maybe 2012,
Yeah.
2013. Maybe even sooner. Actually, it was like more like 2011. I stopped competing in Brawl very much because Marvel 3 got my attention and I started playing that.
Fair enough.
Then I was just bored of Brawl, and then when it was about to be Smash 4, that was the year that PM got huge during like 3.02. So I just started playing that. We were running some locals in this one venue called Hitbox Arena, and they did PM, Melee, and Brawl. And people just didn't show up for the Brawl events. It was fucking hilarious. Like a lot of like strong players would come, and it would just be like 3 people playing basically like a $10 money match for the tournament. And on the PM night, a lot of people would come. Melee night, decent amount of people would come. So I shifted more to like Melee and PM in that year.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So, what was your main during PM?
I played Sheik and Link.
Interesting choice. Like, I mean, mostly because Sheik for me was kind of weird in PM, and Link was interesting, but not necessarily a strong choice, you know. But at the end of the day, PM was this game where mainly almost every character was functional.
Yeah, the balance was pretty good, even though there was stuff like Mewtwo who were just so good. You know, Mewtwo was absolutely broken. Emu Killer would go to my locals. Like it was right next to where he lived, and he was the best player in the world at the time. So
Yeah.
he pretty much just would get first for free, and then everyone else was fighting for second. But yeah, like I liked Sheik because she was my main in Melee,
Mm-hmm.
and I probably like would have had a Pocket Link in Melee if he felt better, but they're basically just improved versions of their Melee selves. Like Sheik is the same plus the back throw mix up, and then Link is just straight up better than the Melee version. I think I actually got my best win with Link. It was Def, the Bowser player. He was really fucking good back in the day. But yeah, that's who I played. Those two. I didn't really like compete in anything aside from my locals for it, but it was really fun, and good people went.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I started competing through PM, and my journey was pretty weird and rough. But after a couple of years of stopping competing in PM, I found out about the Smash 4 bigger scene in Buenos Aires. So,
Mhm.
fortunately, I searched through Facebook for a couple of months and found out about the Smash 4 slash Melee scene, and I was stoked. Of not going to a convention center for every month to see if the Wii's were with Brawl or PM, and I had to be like, and I had to
Yeah.
be like, oh shit, I think I have to fight a Meta Knight or an Icy or a Marth in Brawl now. And the TOs would be like, well, shit, well, tough luck, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's super funny. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so if you followed PM back in the day, like the people I went to this local I'm talking about were
Mhm.
literally like all the best in the world. So it was like Emu Killer, Switch, Shiny Zubat, um, Cruzy Cakes, Jay Reed, Def, like all those guys, like the Easton Smash guys and all like the top New Jersey people. And then
Mhm.
sometimes we'd have like the New York invasion. So like
Yeah.
Guru Kid, Frozen, Gallo, all these players would come out. It was pretty lit because we were like the most consistent um, PM local in that era, and I was like part of the. I was kind of like part of the venue staff that helped run it. So,
Mhm.
uh, yeah, I got my ass beat by a lot of those guys, but it also made me a lot better.
Yeah, no, I bet. I bet it was historic.
Yeah,
So
it was a great era of Smash, man.
so how's the transition from Brawl slash PM to Smash 4?
It was so easy being a brawl player. I think that's why I did so well in the early years of Smash Four. Just because if you're a brawl veteran and you were still out here competing, you just had such a huge leg up on everybody. Smash
Mhm.
Four is just better brawl in almost every way.
Yeah.
So, like, I think it was just so easy for me to pick it up and immediately be good at it.
What were your thoughts on tripping, stop, what of tripping to not be a thing in Smash 4 anymore.
Oh, I was very happy about that, man. I still could not tell you why Sakurai put that shit in the game.
Neither
And
do I.
by the end of Brawl, there's like a movement to use a mod to disable tripping on every setup,
Yeah,
and I was definitely in favor of that happening. But it's kind of annoying to have like SD cards and do all that stuff before a tournament, so
for
it
sure.
never really took off. And there's also the concern that Nintendo would have something to say about it, which you know
Yeah.
I don't think it ever would have gotten caught. And obviously Nintendo wasn't doing anything good for us in those days, so there's really no reason not to do it. But I think people were a little bit scared and just didn't want to put in the organizational legwork to make something like that happen.
For sure. So, what were your thoughts on Meta Knight, Wario, and Falco on the first few months of the game's release?
Of four,
Of 4, yeah.
I did not want to play any of them, honestly. I was like, oh,
Really?
they all feel really bad. Yeah. I think it's just natural when you go into a new engine, your old character is not going to feel right.
Mm.
So because I was playing on the 3DS from day one, the first character I really liked was Pikachu in the demo, but then I realized that DDD was really fun. I was like, oh man, this Gordo stuff is kind of crazy. Like DDD can do some stuff. So I mained him on the 3DS, but toward the end of the 3DS, everyone was already figuring out that Diddy was broken, and DDD just cannot win against Diddy. Like it's literally impossible. So I was like, all right, who's a fast character that I can counterpick Diddy with? And I really liked how Falcon felt. I was like, man, I can't wait for the Wii U version to come out so I can have a C stick and actually do something with this character. And then I ended up maining Falcon for the first couple of months of the game,
Why did
or like the first year.
Why did you eventually drop him though?
Well, on one hand, he had a lot of tough matchups. Sheik and Diddy,
Yeah.
like Diddy wasn't that bad, but Diddy was just so broken and
Yeah.
small and annoying to fight. Sheik could edgeguard you, Pikachu could edgeguard you, and you just literally could not beat Pikachu with Falcon in that game.
No.
Even Kirby was annoying, and Mike Kirby was in my region, so I'd have to fight him a good amount. I remember I beat him once, and I was like, thank fucking God. But yeah, like it was just so annoying to fight certain matchups. And it just so happened that Cloud came out right around when I was getting really fed up with Falcon. And I love Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
I actually lost my fucking mind when that trailer went live, and I was like, yeah, I don't care what happens. I don't care how good he is. I'm maining this guy. He looks so fun. And yeah, that was kind of the birth of my sword character era, which has never really changed.
Yeah, I was gonna get into it. Like after the fake hype of Smash 4 Falcon, yes, I said fake hype. I said what I said. You started picking the swordies of both Lucina and Cloud. Why these two in particular, and how versatile did you found them in in comparison to other top swordies at the time, like Marth, Meta Knight, and Corrin?
So when Cloud came out, there was still no Corrin, so I didn't really have her to compare him to. But I just like skipped straight over Lucina and Marth at first. I always had played a good amount of characters, including them, but they weren't that good until the patch that buffed them a lot. But I really didn't have them in contention for a main.
Yeah.
And then when Cloud first came out, I was like, oh, like he's Cloud and he's broken. Like, holy shit, I'm gonna play this guy. Like, no looking back. So I almost like entirely cold turkey dropped Falcon. There were only a couple people I might have like even tried to use him against after switching, but I definitely just wanted to stick to Cloud. And then after about a year of Cloud being out, I started to think like, man, I'm tired of getting edge guarded. Maybe if I try playing Lucina, who has a better recovery, at least for certain matchups or something like that, like maybe that's a good way for me to win more, right? Yeah. So I ended up clicking with Lucina kind of immediately. I really liked her jab into forward air, jab into forward smash, like all the stuff you could do off jab. And yeah, she just felt right. Being a melee player, I had a lot of experience playing Marth in that game, and then Marth and Brawl and Smash 4 got a lot of playtime for me. So I was kind of already most of the way there. And I'm like, oh, I don't even have to set up tippers. Like, this is broken. So there's a part of me that low-key thought, like, just going all Lucina might be a play, and I kind of did eventually switch over to that. I would barely use Cloud toward the end of Smash 4.
Yeah. And what were your perspective towards these two swordies in comparison to the other top swordies in the game?
They just felt the easiest. I always liked Corrin too. I played a good amount of her, but Lucina and Cloud were just so consistent. They hit really hard, and they have great neutral. So that's kind of like everything I'm looking for.
Yeah. So
Yeah, Marth I had to be too precise, but I would use him for some matchups. There were some matchups that definitely felt better with Marth than Lucina.
yeah, I got it. So what was your mentality going into tournaments as a competitor, of course?
I think I've always been a choker, so it's like, all right, don't fucking choke. Don't lose to someone you're not supposed to lose to. And I think having that mindset also makes you choke more.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like I definitely do better when I'm the underdog. Like, I have a bunch of wins on players who are like way, way better than me, and toward the top of the game.
Yeah.
And that I think I play up to their level, and then when I'm fighting someone who's less good, I put more pressure on myself. From like, shit, I can't lose to this guy. Like, I just beat this guy. So that's definitely like, even to this day when competing, I feel like that's a thing, and it's a pretty common thing, I think, for people who don't crack into like the super top level of the game. But other than that, though, I mean, I think something that I always say to myself is like, who cares how you do at this tournament? Because there's going to be another one next week or the next day if you're going to locals. Like, so I don't really like place my self-worth on bracket performance, and
Of course.
I think that's for the best. That's something that a lot of these younger kids have to learn. It's like, you're not defined by your results in some kid's video game, bro.
For sure. So how do you feel about your trajectory during Smash 4?
At the start, I was already this combination of TO and commentator and player,
Mm-hmm.
but I definitely wanted to like never put down competing. I always wanted to take it very seriously, and I definitely was like the best at the start of the game. Other people are still playing catch up because they didn't have like the brawl fundies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think I'm quick to figure out games, but like after a certain point, I kind of lose motivation to be on top. But I just want to be good enough. So I think my results kind of reflected that, where like I was really strong in like the first 2 years, and then after that, kind of focused more on just commentary, and didn't care to be a top 50 player or something like that. I just wanted to be good enough and have fun and play doubles and get flown out to tournaments as a commentator. Stuff like that was more appealing to me than like being good enough to win my locals or something like that.
I got it. So did you like playing Smash 4?
Yeah, I actually did. I really grinded the fuck out of it. Especially in the beginning. I played a lot, and yeah, again, I think that's really why I did so well at the beginning. But I didn't love competing the same way that I did at the beginning toward the end of the game, just because there was Bayonetta, and
Yeah.
just the game was starting to die off. So I would rather have focused on the back end stuff.
Yeah.
And then I definitely wanted to keep competing in Ultimate, but I just didn't end up liking Ultimate. And
Mm.
pretty much from the jump, I never did.
That sucks. So refreshing the last question, do you miss Smash 4?
No, I went back and played it at SmashCon a year or two ago, and dude, that shit is ass. I thought it was gonna be like refreshing jump back in time after playing Ultimate, but man, it's so slow and floaty, and you can't do whatever you want out of your dash, that kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
Ultimate definitely is the better game,
Mm-hmm.
but it just didn't speak to me as much as Smash 4 did. Like in Smash 4, I had that real hunger as a competitor,
Yeah.
and I liked the pace of the game. 2 stocks, even though it was kind of cheesy, was definitely like very exhilarating and fun. But I don't know, man. Ult just didn't grab me in the same way. It felt a lot stickier and like less fluid, even though you can do a lot more stuff. Like the options are better, the engine is better, etc. But I don't know, it just didn't feel as fun, and kind of the lack of evolution between Smash 4 and Ultimate was really whack for me. I wasn't really like thrilled that it's basically Brawl 3, especially after having roots in Melee and PM. I wanted to see them add wave dashing, add more hits done, have tech in the game, and kind of create a middle ground between Smash 4 and Melee. But instead, they just improved Smash 4, which just improved Brawl.
Okay. I mean, interesting point of view towards Ultimate. I'm gonna lie. I mean, I have my problems with Ultimate as well, but I wouldn't call it like Brawl 3. Uh, but interesting nevertheless. So how do you feel was the? I mean, so out of the characters that you were sticking with, in comparison to Smash 4, which was a little bit smoother the transition. So why do you stick with Lucina towards the game towards the year and a half where you were playing the game at least?
So she just felt almost the same as she was in Smash 4, so it's
Hmm.
just very easy to keep going with her.
Yeah.
I really hated Falcon. I really hated Cloud in Ultimate. They just didn't feel right. They felt
Hmm.
like a shell of their former selves, whereas Lucina, I guess really the only thing she lost was the combos off jab, which was sad for me because that was one of the things that like drew me to her initially.
Yeah.
But um, other than that, she just felt like a very familiar character. So
Yeah.
I kept it up with her. I actually played Martha a good amount in Ultimate at the beginning too. Like I barely entered brackets for that game, but one of my best wins was with Marth at a local against
Yeah.
like a guy who used to be really good back then. But
Hmm.
yeah, and then when like I just stuck with it a little bit in the later era of ult, there like I made my own mod of the game to have wave dashing and all that kind of shit. So I didn't really ever intend on going back to the game,
Yeah.
but I liked Aegis when they came out. They were really fun just because they're fast, and even though there's not really tech with them, it just felt a little bit more like playing one of those high-paced platform fighters.
Hmm.
So yeah, they kind of brought me back in a little bit. I was like, okay, like this is a fun character. But
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know. It was even before COVID hit, but in that era, I just had completely stopped caring about like being good at the game.
For sure. I mean I totally understand. Nowadays I'm kind of into the same. Like I play Ultimate more casually, like playing with friends with tournament rule sets and stuff. But I'm more interested in talking about the game competitively and how the meta shifted and the characters as well. But I have no interest in. I have little to no interest in going back competing, to be honest, because the game for me is just. I mean, I think I have peaked in terms of competing, and I'm more interested in knowing more about character mechanics and I mean tournament results. I'm a huge data person in terms of Smash,
Hmm.
so I'm more inclined into tournament data and statistics and things like that. Similar to people like Barnard's Loop and Easy Freezy and Rose Bloom and other people in the space of Smash that are more into inclined in statistics. And unfortunately, I had the pleasure to talk with people from all across the globe related to Smash, and it's just amazing. And I have no intentions of going into a tournament again as a competitor.
No, I mean, I think one of the coolest things about the Smash community is that there's so much beyond just being a competitor,
Yeah, exactly.
and you can kind of do whatever you want here and accomplish a lot, have a great time, meet a lot of cool people,
Mhm.
and it's just a great hobby, or for the very lucky few, career.
Mhm.
If you don't necessarily want to be the best in the world, like you can still kind of do something, and people will appreciate it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely understand where you're coming from in that regard. For me, like I still am a very competitive person and gamer. I will compete in games, just not ultimate. So I've been playing Rivals, for example. I'm definitely keen to compete in that. Um, NASB 1 and 2, I did the same thing. HDR, I played a lot last year, not so much this year, but I actually got ranked in HDR nationally, which is pretty cool.
Cool.
But yeah, like I like the wave dashy games, man. I just hate Ultimate. I'm definitely still a competitor, but for like the main Smash game, which is currently Ultimate, nah, man, it ain't for me, unfortunately.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So how do you feel about the Ultimates meta as a not as a competitor, but more so as like the perspective of the inside of the scene?
Oh man, I think it's definitely in a rough spot right now, just because Steve is such a dominant character, such an annoying character, more so than he is dominant. I think a lot of people just don't want to play him. He's not fun and easy to pick up and play like say Meta Knight or Bayonetta was.
Mhm.
So you don't really see top players switching off their mains to just win with
Yeah.
Steve. Some of them have, and the ones that have been doing so, look at Syrup. He just won Coinbox IRL this past weekend, and he got. Did he win Big House? I think he got second. Whatever. Either way, he's had great results since switching to Steve. So it's definitely like there are some people out there who are just like, fuck it, I want to win. But if he was easier to play, I think he'd. And by easier, I don't even mean difficulty, just kind of like intuitiveness, intuition wise, like then we'd have a real problem on our hands. But then if you look away from Steve, there's still other characters that are pretty toxic / undesirable to watch or fight against, like Sonic and Kazuya and Game & Watch. Like nobody has a good time fighting those guys. And I think kind of the vibe from most competitors who aren't winning tournaments after they lose is like, man, like I fucking hate this game. I had to play X, Y, and Z cheesy characters, and it just drained the life force out of me and was not fun. So that's kind of what the vibes are in Ultimate tournaments right now, which is kind of depressing. I do think Steve should be banned. Like, it's not like he's saving us from, I don't know, the Sonic apocalypse or something, like how Meta Knight was kind of saving us from the even darker future of Ice Climbers taking over the game. And it kind of, it's disappointed me that it hasn't picked up real momentum to ban Steve, because even if he's not winning, even if he's not like 7 out of 8 Steves in every top 8, like it doesn't need to be that for you to acknowledge that this character is bad for the game, like that the game would be better off without him.
Mm-hmm. I mean, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, of course, I think that during the Smash 4 2017 and mainly 2018 era of Smash, Bayonetta was way more toxic than Steve. And there were much more players that were like, I'm gonna stop playing the game, or I'm gonna switch to Bayonetta to start having a little bit more enjoyment of the game than now with Steve and Sonic, of course, and maybe Kazuya and Game & Watch. But I think that the main focus of not banning Steve is Japan is never gonna ban Steve, and that's basically the main reason that a lot of the scenes are not gonna ban Steve.
No, it totally makes sense. I think Japan, they've just got a totally different mentality about the game than the West.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I mean, I understand why it's never going to gain momentum, and I understand, according to the Japanese scene and culture in general over there, why they wouldn't want to ban him. So I get it. You want to be able to fight the character that the best player in the world plays as well, right? Nobody wants to get caught with like a complete lack of matchup experience if Akala comes over here.
I mean, it's not even that. For example, one of the biggest scene right now that has Steve banned is Australia. Like the biggest in terms of population, of people playing the game in the region and having the character banned. And I've seen people like Seb Pro or DD. No disrespect to them, like as a competitors, they're amazing. But when they have to play against Steve in either Southeast Asia or Japan mainly, they just don't do well. Like as good as I can say it, they just don't do well at all. So the idea of a lot of players in a scene not knowing the matchup because of months of not playing the matchup and then going to a tournament where the character is not banned and they have to play that character is pretty shitty.
No, it totally makes sense. Like I get exactly why some people who might even think Steve is like complete bullshit and maybe individually would want him banned would still not want the character banned just for preparation reasons and stuff like that. Yeah, and for everyone to be on the same page. That's one really tough thing about Smash is like the Ultimate doesn't even have a unified stage list in 6 years.
Also, that's pretty shitty. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, yeah, it is, and it's just impossible. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, sorry. I was gonna say that currently I think the best rule set right now is in Europe, and I'm shocked that the United States haven't picked that up. I don't know if you saw the rule set in Europe.
I'll be honest, man. Since I don't play the game, I don't really keep up with that kind of stuff.
Fair enough.
But I have seen people talk about it.
I'll just send it to you, and if you don't know something, because of course it's in Spanish, because I have it in Spanish only, you just told me. But Yeah,
Yeah,
but
that's fine.
in terms of Steve in particular, one thing that I've noticed is that more people are knowing in comparison to Brawl Meta 9 and ICs and Smash 4 Bayo, the thing with Ultimate Steve is that more people are knowing how to fight the characters in terms of not being annoying and not being boring. For example, people like Yoshidora with Yoshi, of course, or people like there's this CSS in Japan that has a really great winning record against Alakala, and CSS is pretty hype, ain't gonna lie. So there are more people knowing how to fight against Steve, but at the end of the day, the problem also lies in it's kind of like a sword with two edges because the more people are finding how to defeat Steve mains that have this discord of all the top Steves in the world that are constantly grinding with each other, are finding out more techniques of how to counter this new techniques of fighting as Steve. So it's
Yeah,
really
yeah. No, I feel you, man. And you know what's funny is like I feel like if you play Steve, like you're here to win, right?
yeah,
And also the character has such a high ceiling that he is very interesting to lab out and pursue
yeah.
new tech with. So I don't doubt that like giving the Steve players more of a reason to practice is actually just going to put them further ahead of everybody else. They do
Mhm.
seem genuinely like probably the hardest working player base or one of them.
Yeah.
So I don't doubt that like, yeah, let's leave Steve legal so we can learn the matchup will only lead to the Steve players learning the matchup even more.
Yeah,
Yeah, I totally see it.
when I talked with both Onin and Toon, two of the best Steve mains in the American continent, they told me that yeah, they're constantly grinding on Discord every weekend or every weekday, or at least two weekdays a week, and they're like, and I'm like, man, I wish there was this type of involvement with other characters, like having their own Discord and shit like that. I mean, I know that Sonic and Wrath and many other Sonics go for it, but I hardly doubt that it happens with any other character.
By the way, I'm just looking at this European rule set. I
Yeah.
immediately cannot co-sign it because it has Yoshi's story legal. Sorry, Europe.
I
But
mean,
anyway, I don't care enough about. Honestly, I just don't care about rule sets. Whatever
I
the
mean
people
for sure.
want is what we're gonna run in our tournaments.
Yeah, no, for
Our
sure.
rule set has been well received, so we're just keeping that.
Yeah, I mean for sure. I mean a lot of scenes in Europe are not counting Yoshis, and they have, I think, either Northern Cave or just 8 stages instead of 9. But the
Mhm.
main focus is not having starters or counter picks and just straight up banning
Right, right.
3 games at the beginning and then 3 or 4 games for the loser of the rock paper scissors, and then the winner of the rock paper scissors bans 2 stages. It picks up the 2 stages that weren't picked, and then from the second game onwards is the winner bans 3 stages.
No, I do think that's kind of cool. There have been a bunch of rule sets over the years, even in Brawl and Smash 4, where people have toyed with that idea, like
Mm-hmm.
not delineating between counter picks and starters. I
Yeah.
personally don't really have much of an opinion on if that's better or not. I guess it allows more freedom of choice, and like with so many bans, you probably won't have to play on a stage you don't like.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just kind of um, that's whatever for me. I'm not super passionate about it one way or the other.
No, of course.
But
But
yeah.
also, but the main thing about that rule set is that it's character first.
Mhm. Yeah, I know that movement has caught on a lot. See, actually, this is something where I do have an opinion.
Yeah.
I think that doing stage first, like it always was done for years and years and years, is
Mhm.
better because you do get rewarded for being flexible enough to play two characters.
Yeah.
Even in a game where, like, say this guy has a Pocket Kazuya and you forgot to ban FD. Well,
Yeah.
sorry, buddy. He gets rewarded because one, you didn't research the player enough to know he has a Pocket Kazuya. Two, he is good enough to play another character to the degree that it will beat you. And like
Mhm.
3, the stage theoretically shouldn't be an automatic win, although I do understand, like, specifically Kazuya on FD, for example, is like really, really, really bad. But yeah, I don't know. I also don't care. Again, like it seems like the majority of Ultimate players like the character first thing, and it's a very counterpick heavy game with 90 characters. That's definitely unlike anything we've ever seen in Smash before.
Yeah.
So sometimes modern problems require modern solutions. I'm not against doing character first, but I definitely see, like, I like the stage first because that surprise counterpick is kind of hype.
Okay. One thing that has been in Smash since I think Melee or Brawl, was DSR. What were your thoughts on DSR since you started competing?
It's I don't know. I think there have been times where because of DSR, I'm like, shit, I basically have to counterpick myself. Like I can't go to they banned all the stages that I would want to play on,
Yeah.
and I already won on the last remaining stage.
Mm-hmm.
I think people have tended to in the newer Smash games like having an extra ban
Yeah.
more than having DSR because sometimes like even if your opponent wins on a stage, you know it wasn't because of the stage, and you have the freedom to now say, all right, I'm going to leave this stage open no matter what. Like I don't really care. But if I want to ban that stage because they already won there, I have an extra ban, so I'm a little bit more flexible.
Yeah. I got it. So, and what about gentlemen's?
Um, I'm typically anti-gentleman just because there's kind of like an element of social pressure that can come into it.
Yeah.
Like, say you're a random guy at his first tournament and you fight Mango, and somehow like you take Mango to game 3, and he's like, "Yo, gentlemen's to the stage that I won on," when like you could have DSR'd it out or something like that. Like say the top player makes a request of you, like let's gentlemen somewhere,
Yeah.
and you're like, well, I don't want to be a loser and say no to Mango. Then like maybe you lose that set and you're walking away from like shit. Like if I didn't let him, coerce me into playing here or something or whatever it was, like maybe I could have won, and then you could have hard feelings about it later. And I don't know. I think at the end of the day, people are going to do it anyway, right? Like who gives a fuck? But I think it could be healthy for rule sets to be like, yo, no gentlemen's, like I don't want to walk past you and see you playing on Norfair or some bullshit like that just because, either somebody trolled you or whatever. And maybe you guys gentlemen to 99 stocks and now I have to fucking hold up the whole tournament for this and like waste time as a TO, time and energy having a talk with you about why this isn't okay. So
Wait, you got into that type of story of someone playing with 99 stocks, or is it just some random thing that you just popped out in your head?
I just made that up, yeah.
Okay,
But
cool.
like I've seen it, I've seen
Oh
people
shit.
say back in the day, bro, there would be people who were like, yo, gentlemen, best of 5 for this set, because like two friends who want to like have a real serious match in a certain part of bracket or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just holds up the tournament and you're like, wait, why is that set taking so long? It's like, oh, they gentlemen to a best of 5. That's like super old school shit. That usually never happens, but it just avoids bullshit from an organizational perspective.
For sure.
I'm not particularly like keen to go around enforcing it or anything, but I do think, just for safety's sake, like having no gentleman's bullshit in the stage list is good.
Yeah, for sure.
Or in the rule set at all.
So, how has been your how was the impact of the LLBM series for the larger tournament to ban a character like Steve?
Sorry, what do you mean?
I mean, the let's make big moves and let's make moves serious, and now let's Luminosity makes moves. Series has been known widely for banning Steve. How was the impact from from the point that the team decided to ban Steve?
I got you. So, like, how much did that affect the rest of the scene?
Yeah, or how was the
Honest,
impact overall, not only on the
I,
scene but in general?
right, like at the events. I think the people who went to the events honestly liked it quite a bit
Hmm.
because now it's at least like, even if I lost or underperformed, at least I didn't have to fight Steve, right? Like, fighting Steve, whether you win or lose, is kind of an unpleasant experience. There really was a solid movement to ban the character, and I think by responding to that, people felt like we were listening and we were like plugged in with the scene and their feelings and shit. So,
Hmm.
um, that's what you strive for as a TO. You want people to feel like you're listening to them. We did at Let's Make Moves 2022, 2023.
Hmm.
We banned him as like not necessarily a knee jerk reaction, but like as a fast reaction to the PMLG hit stun canceling thing that was discovered in early 2023.
Yeah.
And we were just like, yeah, like, no, fuck that. I don't want to have to like walk by and go frame by frame in a replay and see if he did a certain tech or not. Like, people already hate fighting this character. So instead of listening to them complain about that, let's just get rid of him and see where it goes and see if people like it or not. And I think they did, honestly. kind of sucked because Grand Finals the year before was a Steve Ditto. It was Onin versus Akala Grand Finals, but it was absolutely not motivated by that, right? Like, yeah, that was kind of a snooze fest of a Grand Finals, but it wasn't like we saw that and we're like, oh, never again. It was more like we see how much people hate this, and we want to see if, doing something about it will resonate with them. And I think it did, but it didn't really have more attendance than the last one. I think it actually was the smallest one with Steve banned. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily because of the Steve ban either. I don't think it's like people hated the fact that he was banned. Just kind of how it all went down. And plus, it wasn't like a big change in numbers, maybe like 50 less people or something. But yeah, like then for Let's Make Big Moves, a couple months after that one, we did a poll and we were like, okay, you guys get to decide, is Steve banned or not? And it was a pretty solid margin in favor of banning him. Mm-hmm. And we included the question, like, are you going to the tournament or not? And among people that were actually going to the tournament, it was like a very solid majority wanting to ban Steve. Like, more people that were going wanted him banned than people who would just be at home watching. So that, I think we definitely like hit the nail on the head in terms of like appeasing what people wanted. And a lot of people even that weekend had told me like, yo, thank God, like you guys are the only people brave enough to ban Steve. Like, I fucking hate this character. And even if they literally said stuff like, even if I didn't make top 64, like at least I didn't have to fight a Steve and it felt better. That said, like, I know the character is not so common that everyone's bracket path is likely to include one, but still, like, it did make a positive impact on people. Yeah. But in terms of how much impact it made in the big picture, I would say it was honestly next to none. Pretty much no majors have banned Steve since LMBM 2024. The poll this year, they voted not to ban Steve. It was fairly close, but definitely people wanted Steve to be legal this year, even among people who are going to the tournament. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's just kind of how it went. It didn't really leave a lasting impression on the scene at large, but people did enjoy not having to fight him at those two tournaments, that's for sure. And I can't blame them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, were you going to ban Steve if the polls were in favor of banning Steve, though? Because, yes. Okay, cool. Because, for a moment I thought that you were going to give into the Nintendo's bullshit.
Quite honestly, man, I don't even know if that's a true fact. LMBM 2023 was licensed by Nintendo and Steve was banned. I think low-key you just have to not, make it a big thing that you're doing it at the tournament. Just kind of keep it on the low.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I talked to a couple of lawyers about the Nintendo's guidelines, and they were like, dude, this is just guidelines, not requirements. You can run your tournament as much as you fucking want. As a matter of fact, if you have a contract signed with I forgot how to say it in English, with like a venue or some sort, and Nintendo cannot come in as a third party and be like, no, you cannot do this tournament. That's illegal, actually. So Nintendo has no law. Has no connections to politics or police requirements to indulge into any activity for a tournament to be illegal to make.
Right. Yeah, I think people saying that, like, oh, well, you can't do it now because of Nintendo is kind of just a cop-out for organizers that don't want to, like, take a stand or even put in the legwork to figure out if the majority of people want this or not. And also just, I think people are genuinely sick of the infighting. Like, at this point, to ban Steve would require more arguing and debate and, like, online bullshit than keeping him legal would. So I don't blame anyone who's just like, I don't want to go through this bullshit. I don't even want to ask the question of, is this okay with Nintendo or not? I'm just going to go ahead and run the tournament with all characters legal, and, like, you guys got to deal with it. Like, I definitely respect it. I don't mean to say that, yeah, you guys don't have the balls to ban Steve. Like, shame on you. It's like, no, like, I get why you wouldn't want to do that. It's just a lot of trouble. You got to listen to a bunch of angry 16-year-olds on Twitter. Maybe, like, there's a chance that Nintendo actually says something to you. Like, it's just more trouble than it's worth, I think. And at the end of the day, like, yeah, it's never going to be like a consensus thing to get rid of a character.
For sure.
Maybe even ever in Smash. We've now seen it 3 games in a row where there's a character who's on the chopping block and it just doesn't get any action taken. So I don't really have much faith in the community to organize to that level. Like we were talking about with the rule set. Like if people can't even agree on this, there's no way they're going to agree on a character ban, especially with Japan in the equation and potentially with Nintendo in the equation. Like let's just not even bother. So
it's pretty weird that Japan is unanimously against banning Steve, but they were so close to banning another character in Smash. I don't know if you knew.
Wait, Japan was close to banning a character in Smash?
Yeah, in Ultimate specifically.
Really?
Yeah. You didn't knew?
No.
It was pre-patch Min Min.
Really?
Yeah, back then people were fucking hating Min Min. It was that bad.
Wow, that's actually so interesting. And, you know, just thinking about the characters that people play in Japan, there are a lot of Min Mins.
Yeah.
And there are also even more Steves. So I'm kind of surprised that... So it's not really even like the Japanese scene is just against the notion of banning characters in general. It's like Steve particularly hasn't stood out to them as that degree of a problem, huh?
No. I mean, there are a lot of Steves in Japan for sure. There's Aquila, Araki, there's...
Carmelo,
there's 3D Parent Box.
Yep. There's a million of them. There's a million Steves out there.
But at the end of the day, they were really angry towards pre-patch amendment for people like Dormy. I mean, not Dormy, like Proto Bangham, O George, Omoatsu, Mao, and many other amendments that were really getting a lot of shit ton of results and wins, and people just didn't like Min playing against Min. I mean, people now don't like playing against Min either, you know, but. Or watching Min. I mean, I like watching Min. That's weird. I mean, I have shitty opinions about Smash, you know, but I understand why people don't like watching and or playing with Min. It's pretty weird that it was that for Japan we're like, yeah, we're this close to banning this character unless this character gets patched, and they got patched fortunately, but. Yeah, it was a weird era in the Japanese scene.
Yeah, I'm actually very surprised to learn that. My assumption was that they were kind of like, no, like you gotta be the toughest competitor you can, and like banning a character is soft. Like I kind of thought that was their mentality toward it, but knowing that Min was so close to being banned, or like at least that there was a discussion around it, that's very surprising to me.
I mean, let's put this into perspective. There was much more hate for Min mains that Steve mains in Japan. I mean, and I think that there were a shit ton when Aquila was having big results in Japan back then.
Yeah, that's just so shocking to me, but I believe it, man. I could see it. Min-Min's a really frustrating character.
Pre-patch Min was fucked up, just straight up.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about the evolution of the New Jersey scene in the past few decades?
Oh man, it's been a mixed bag. I think the evolution between like Brawl and Smash 4 was very positive. There were a lot of like weird toxic people and shit like that back in the day, but a lot of that just kind of got weeded out with the new game, and a lot of them didn't return. And you know, the scene grew up a lot. I was very young when Brawl was out. I was 14 or 15, I guess, 14, and then very shortly after turned 15 in the first year of Brawl. So I was like in the freshman class of like New Jersey Smash. And then by the time Smash 4 came out, I was kind of like in the middle of the pack, if not on the older side. I was 21. So it was cool just seeing like the players in my age range and even younger players than me start to like grow up and become adults and create like our own social dynamics. And like we were very tight knit, and we would all hang out like outside of tournaments, after tournaments, stuff like that. That was very fun. Like when we all started getting into like drinking and smoking weed, you know, there were some fun house parties back in the day and shit. And that was cool, you know, when we were like all college aged.
Yeah.
And now Ultimate came out when I was 25, and by then I could already kind of see like a little bit of a shift. Like now I'm definitely on the older side of things, even at 25. Like the community is mostly younger than that, so you'd see like the new kids start to come in, like little old babies. Sometimes they show up with their parents just because Smash is becoming more mainstream, right? So it's less like hardcore gamers who found this randomly on the internet, and more like people who saw a YouTuber and their mom brought them to a tournament. And that has persisted throughout the last 6 years. And now, like, if I went to a local, I probably wouldn't recognize most people. Whereas in Brawl and Smash 4, I'd go and I'd be like dapping everybody up, like, yo, what's fucking good, bro? Can't wait to chill after. Like, who even cares about this bracket? Like, we're all just like brothers having a good time. But now it's a lot different. And of course, for the people in that age range, I'm sure it's a blast because they've gotten to go through the same thing that I have, where the people they grew up with are now just like the main people in charge of the social dynamic at the tournament, and they're having a blast and they know everybody and it's really fun for them. I think it's just part of getting older more so that like the people who join the scene are lamer or whatever. But I do think, that's also kind of an element. Like Gen Z, you guys are pretty cool. Gen Alpha, you guys are fucking weird and cringe, man. Like it's so weird to show up and see some of like these kids these days. I don't know. They're just kind of like, I guess, quirkier than my generation and even the generation below me. Like, it's just different. We're just boomers now, and it's like, fuck, man. Like, it's not like the good old days. But shout outs to the new kids. You guys are keeping the scene alive, and there's always got to be new blood. And I have nothing against you guys. It's just like, are these the people I would want to hang out with? No, not necessarily. Which I think kind of means that I'm like outgrowing the space, right? Like at 31, this is a game made for kids, right? Like it's kind of tough to feel that same like social dynamic and stuff. But that said, like for all the old heads that are still around, like we always just hang out with each other at tournaments, and that group extends pretty wide. Like even people like Tweak and Light and Mars, who are like 5 or 6 years younger than me, like we all still kind of came from that same era. Like they were very young in Smash 4. I was kind of young in Smash 4, or like middle of the pack. So we all kind of like, we're all veterans now at this point. And then the new kids hang out with the new kids. So yeah, I mean, that said, like things have, on the organizational front, things have come a long way as well. I remember I used to run locals back in the day and some smaller like regional size events, but I don't really have to do that more just because there's newer TOs out there and even older people like RJ who have been around forever. Like his team holds it down on the local front. He also does a major collision. We do big moves. Like the locals are just in the hands of the younger kids now, and a lot of like schools have locals, which is super, super cool to see. So yeah, I'm proud of how Tristate Smash has developed. I think it's currently like probably the most poppin' scene in the West, right? Like SoCal used to be where it was at in the 2GG days, but since then it's really been like a Northeast thing, and Tri-State is just always on top, which is really cool to see. I think especially back in Brawl, Tri-State was the best region by far, dude. Like I could get 9th at a major and 9th at a local. You know what I'm saying? Just because that was the level of talent that we'd have to be fighting against at every event here. So it's good to see the East Coast is back on top. And yeah, we have 2 great major series here. Really strong and pretty cool local scene. So I'm very happy with how Tri-State has turned out.
Awesome. So how and when did you got into commentating?
That's so funny. I think I commentated the first ever Smash stream.
Really?
Yeah, there was a tournament that was supposed to be a major in Connecticut. It was at the very beginning of 2009. And they had like all the top players were coming out to it. And Mewtwo King was there, a bunch of other, like way more people were supposed to be there. But then a massive blizzard hit the night before the tournament. I had already driven up there with my boys. And we ended up sleeping in the venue because it was so bad that we couldn't even drive to our hotel.
Shit,
but
you have the weirdest lucks in terms of first times in Smash, but
I know, right? Yeah. So anyway, I'm at this tournament, and because it was supposed to be a major, this is right around when like Ustream just started to become a thing, and like live streaming became a more common like occurrence in general. These TOs wanted to stream their event to show off the level of gameplay and all the top players going. So they just kind of had like some shitty mic plugged into the computer, and nobody was going near it, and like they didn't really know or care about what was going on in the stream. But I was like, hey man, fuck it. Like if there's a mic there, let me just try to be a commentator and see how it goes. So I did it, and it was so funny. I was still 15 at the time, and I was kind of like shy, so I was speaking quietly and like in a lower tone than normal, and people were like, yo, who's this 40-year-old man commentating? Um, but I was like, oh, that was fun, man. Like, I think I would do it again. And then streams started becoming like slowly more popular at tournaments. And I made sure to just be like, hey, like I've done this before. Like, can I get on? And people knew me as a player as well. So they're like, oh, yeah, of course. And then it just kind of stuck. I guess, like, I don't know if it was people thinking I did a good job or I thought I did a good job. And that's why I kept wanting to do it. But yeah, I mean, I was at the right place at the right time and had been doing it since the very, very, very beginning. And yeah, like after a certain point, you've just done it so much that you're like the most experienced guy, and like, you know, they want you to be on there.
For sure. So, how do you find your style of commentating?
It's a good question. I think at this point, I don't even have a style. I just do whatever the fuck I want. But back in the day, like I used to try to be professional and like analytical. When I got into the FGC super hard from like that Marvel era,
Yeah.
they were just so far ahead of us in terms of commentary and in every regard, right? Like they had the really good analytical commentators like Ultra David and James Chen, but then they also had Yipes, who was just so energetic and fun and stuff. So I tried to kind of blend like the best parts about all of their commentary into one, where I'm just like, yo, I'm gonna get hype if this shit is hype. But also I want to explain to the average viewer at home who might not be like a super tryhard like everybody here, or like all the very educated viewers, and in as few words as possible, break down these plays and make it seem exciting to them, and like show why it was a genius move or something like that. So I think that like at the end of the day, that's still my core ethos as a commentator, is like, I don't want to be too nerdy and breaking everything down like step by step, but I want to like communicate that kind of information in a nice digestible way that like your grandma could understand why that was a good play or something. And then just being myself. Like I love watching this shit, you know, that's why I'm still around after 20 years, because it's so fun to watch, and like competition is exciting. So I'll just let my energy be like exactly what I think of the match, whether that's boring or hype. Like I'm not going to force either one. So I'm just kind of reacting. I'm like a react YouTuber, I guess, like in the simplest terms. But I also know so much about these games, and I want to use my speaking skills to convey that knowledge in a clean way.
Awesome. So, is there a character that you currently don't like commentating?
Like maybe this is where people would expect me to say Steve, because I've been kind of shitting on Steve throughout the entire interview, but there's something fun about commentating the broken character, just because like there's always that hope that he'll lose, right? And like it's so impressive when somebody does manage to beat Steve, just because the character's so fucking broken. I would say there's not really a character that I'm like, oh god, like I gotta do this. Like I actually kind of like Sonic, especially Sonic. So I'm a big fan of his gameplay. I think he's not boring at all.
Yeah.
Even when he is timing people out, it can get so intense when it's down to the last minute of gameplay. Like my eyes are glued to the fucking screen. I think people like just kind of hive mind into hating timeouts because they're like, oh, you made it slow and boring. But dude, that last minute is what you live for as a spectator. Like that is the hype of shit. As long as it's close. If it's like the guy's 3 stocks to 1 timing you out, like, yeah, okay, man, like let's just get on with the next game. But
yeah, exactly.
You probably don't see many timeouts when they're up 2 stocks. Either way, yeah, I would say probably not. Honestly, I don't think there's a character where I'm like, oh god, I gotta deal with this shit.
Fair enough. Yeah, personally, one of my favorite sets of all time was a national here in Buenos Aires back in the Mela days. It was ICs versus Fox, if I'm not mistaken. It was just Sopo versus Fox, game 5, and it was a 1% difference, and the Sopo managed to do a side B, and it got into timeout, and it was fucking amazing.
Wow, that's Sopo 1?
Sopo 1, yeah.
Oh shit, that's so hype. Yeah.
And the Fox main threw the controller through the ground so hard that it broke, and in my house there is a still piece of the GameCube controller in my room.
That's amazing, dude. Yeah, no, I love timeouts, honestly. Like I would not prefer if every game was a timeout. Obviously. Like but when they happen, like they're memorable, and it's so tense leading up to it. It has to be like the right kind of timeout, I'd say, but most of them end up being that way, where it's like very close and like, oh shit, like I could just time them out. Let me try to do that. And then there's that scramble to get that last hit and that last bit of damage. Like you remember those sets, man. So I think like, you know, having a couple timeouts along the way is kind of a hype thing as a spectator and as a commentator.
Sure.
Like, I don't mind, but I got to sit there for 8 minutes instead of 5 or 4. Like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if these whole sets is just timeouts, like it happened before, then I'm kind of, I mean, for example, I haven't watched yet the latest Smash Factor grand finals because I mean I don't want to be glued into the computer for 1 hour, one hour and a half. I don't know if you saw that meme.
I commentated it, bro.
Oh fuck.
Yeah. No, I actually was thinking about that when I was saying that I like timeouts because that was one of my favorite grand finals of all time.
Oh, cool. Then.
Like, yeah, because they're definitely slow playing it for the entire set and they're running away from each other and stuff. But like, that both characters are fast enough and do enough damage that like it still could go either way when it goes down to the last minute. That was one of my favorite grand finals of all time.
Okay, cool then. I may have to watch it then, but
yeah, it is long though. Like you said, one game in the set being a timeout is fine. The whole set being timeouts or close to it, yeah, that's like the minutes really do add up in that case. So yeah, I can understand why it would be tough.
I saw the meme of either watching the whole movie of Bambi or watching the grand final set of S Factor 11. I was like, man, they're
yeah, no, I think you could definitely get a couple movies to fit in that window. Exactly. That's so funny, dude. But yeah, I mean, to answer the initial question again, yeah, there's no character where I'm like, nah, I don't want to commentate this. I hate this.
For sure, yeah. So, outside of American English, is there a language or dialect that you love hearing casting?
Yeah, I love Spanish and Japanese casters. You guys are definitely the hypest.
Wait, which Spanish? Like Latin American Spanish or
European Spanish? Latin American Spanish. Okay. Spain Spanish sounds weird to me. I live in an area with a whole bunch of Latin Americans, and like I speak an okay amount of Spanish, and like to me the realest Spanish is like Mexican and Dominican Spanish because that's the people in my area. So like that's what I'm used to hearing. And then when I hear like you sent me the European rule set from Mystic Squad, like when I throw their stream on, I'm like, whoa, this sounds completely different. And it's definitely not like it doesn't have the same flavor to me. So I definitely like Latin American Spanish the most.
Okay.
And yeah, also shout outs to the French commentators. Like, so I speak like a little bit of Spanish and French, and I can like kind of understand what's going on. I also really like the French casters. I wouldn't say it's necessarily because of the way the language sounds so much as just like how fucking hyped they are. I think like Europeans specifically, Europeans and Latin Americans specifically, because of how big like football culture is, they know how to get hype as fuck on the mic. So that's like a cool thing about listening to international commentary. I don't think the American casters do the same thing as well. They can't get crazy hype on a dime like that. So shout outs to LATAM and to Europe for really having the hype ass comms.
Yeah. What about European English casters?
Oh, well, I'm boys with Fabs, and I love that guy. And I think just Americans in general have a favorable opinion of the British accent. So I love hearing the UK guys cast too. Yeah, those guys are really fun. Or do you mean like non-English speaking Europeans who cast in English? Because I actually like their accents too.
Maybe both, actually, because non-English European casting sounds interesting. Not bad, but just interesting.
Yeah, like I love how the French casters sound when they speak English, and the German casters too. Like I actually like enjoy that quite a bit. I like honestly just good commentary in general, regardless of language, is always something that's gonna hit well for me as a commentator. Exactly. Sometimes like bad commentary triggers me more than the average person as a commentator, but I don't really care too much at the end of the day. Like I'm not gonna get too mad about it. But yeah, I just like hearing all different like accents and languages.
Awesome. So do you have any advice towards anyone that wants to get involved into commentating?
Yeah, it's super tough because I think a lot of people see the bigger name commentators at the top and they think like, oh my god, like this could be me. I could be getting paid and flown out to go to events. But the tough thing is that like, the seats at the top are kind of already filled and there's already not enough money to go around to hire all the commentators and stuff.
Yeah.
So it feels like my number one advice is don't do it expecting a paycheck and expecting to get a career out of it. Like we just got lucky that we were there first, like, and now we're kind of like the historians of the scene, right? Like we've seen so many generations come and go, and that's what makes, you know, our commentary hit different. Like we know all the players, we know their stories and stuff like that. Not to discourage anyone, because I would love to see like new people get into it and maybe like, you know, surpass the old guard of commentary and just really stand out as like an amazing new talent in the space. Like, I think, to bring up Fabs again, he's been like one of the few that has really kind of broken the mold and gotten in there. But you know, I think when you're doing something like Smash commentary, that's definitely just like a labor of love and like a passion thing, and you're doing that with the intention of getting hired and getting flown out to places and stuff, it kind of shows in your approach to commentary. Like you'll be a little bit more fake, and you could tell when someone's going for like the clip commentary, so they can put it in their reel, and it just makes it less genuine. So like that advice about like don't get into it expecting a paycheck also doubles as like don't commentate like you're doing this to get hired somewhere else later. Like commentate like what it is right now. If the match isn't hype, you don't have to pretend it's hype, you know? Or if it is hype, you don't have to be all Mr. Professional golf commentary about it because you think that's like the brand you want to create for yourself. Like if you're a Smash commentator, you should do it because you love watching this game. You love talking about this game. You know a lot about this game and are qualified to talk about this game. And also, just that like you're good at talking in the first place, right? I've seen some people who just don't have the best people skills or public speaking skills try to do it, and it's like, you know, hate to tell you, kid, but I don't know if this is for you. So, yeah, it's a tough field to get into. Like at the end of the day, you know, in the most technical sense, it is a performing art, and it's not going to be for everyone. Sure. Like not everyone's an actor or a singer, and it's kind of the same thing, even if it's like a lot easier to get into, right? Like you don't have to be born with a great sense of pitch and set of vocal cords like you would to be a great singer. Like it's not the hardest thing in the world, but it's not for everybody. There's not really a lot of career opportunities in it, but to put a more positive spin on things, it is really fun. And if you want to like just, you know, start breaking out into casting your locals or regional events where like, you know, it would be feasible to achieve your goals and do what you want to do with it, and you won't be disappointed when like Genesis doesn't hire you. Like, hey, bro, Genesis doesn't hire me half the time. Then yeah, like get into it. It's fun. All you got to do is really just show up to your locals. Like I would say, be a competitor first, because like that's what it's all about. At the end of the day, being in this space is like being about a player, or about being a player. And you know where you break into after that is kind of up to you. But that'll make you more qualified to know what you should be saying on the mic, what the culture is like, what kind of stories you should be telling. So show up, play, get to know people, and then one day at your local, just go up to the streamer and be like, hey man, like, can I get on the mic? And if they recognize you and they're like, oh yeah, like this guy, you know, he's either placed well a couple times, or like he knows all the people here and he's the homie, and like I feel like he'd have something interesting to add, that's when they're going to be like, oh yeah, sure. And then like you'll do a good job, and the people on the stream will like you, and then that's how you maybe start getting to higher level events. Is like once your local scene is impressed with you and they're like, yeah, I would like vouch for this guy, then you know you could start going further with it.
Yeah. And is there any advice you would like to give to someone that is already in their first few months or first year into commentary?
I would say you'll always be a better caster if you're just going to be yourself, right? Kind of going back to the whole like don't commentate for the clip. Yeah. Like what you really are is kind of like a React YouTuber when you're in that chair, right? Like you want to be yourself because that's what people are going to recognize. They're going to be like, oh, like he actually thought this was hype, which is why he's yelling, and it actually was hype. And he's, you know, geeking out about this character because he plays this character or his friend plays this character and he really knows a lot about it, and that's why he's talking so much, not just trying to like impress people with how much you know about the game. So I think like, you know, when you're a performer, when you're speaking publicly, just being genuine is always the best path to get people to enjoy your work. So don't worry about the bag. You know, there's this whole culture about, oh, chase the bag, like do it for the bag. Don't do it if you're not getting paid. Like, fuck that. This is Smash Brothers commentary. Yeah. Like, you know, the prize pools are bad enough, brother. You don't want to know what the paycheck is like.
I mean, for sure. In my opinion, at least, in terms of the bag of commentary, If I mean, you also need to put a little bit of value into it, like not. I mean, and on one hand, yes, it is important to also get better with it, but at the end of the day, for example, I've heard of a lot of commentators that got into a major and they didn't get paid, and it was, or they didn't even get like water or shit like that, and it was like, oh shit.
Right, right. You got to have respect for yourself. Like you got
Exactly.
to be getting something in return, but like,
Exactly.
you know,
That
at
was
the
the
same
philosophy.
time,
Yeah.
yeah, like don't be expecting flight, hotel, and like
No,
a
no, no, no.
four-digit number.
Not
Yeah.
shit like that, but at least have a
Yeah.
little bit of your respect on yourself and
Of
on your
course.
work and your craft, things like that.
Of course. Of
I was
course.
a little get into it because a lot of my closest friends in the Smash scene are also commentators or TOs, and and I heard like, oh shit, my sponsor got dropped. At least I'm gonna give water or buy my commentator to a lunch or shit like that. Uh, so I think that's a little bit more genuine to just not giving respect to the craft that the commentators are putting into the tournament.
No, of course. You gotta respect yourself as a performer or as a person volunteering their time, right? Like make sure you at least get a little bit of money and, you know, they give you water like that. I think that's more on the TOs than
Mm-hmm.
on the players. Like, you know, speaking from the TO perspective, it is tough to pay so many commentators like what their time is actually worth, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like every tournament kind of underpays everybody, but that's just the nature of Smash, and
No,
you
of
got to
course.
know that going into it. But like
Yeah.
you got to leave with something, and you know when we run tournaments, we make sure we're paying everybody. That's for sure. It
Mm-hmm.
might not be a lot, but we pay them what we can, and you know make sure that they feel it's worth their time. At the end of the day, that's really what it's about. It's like, did it feel like it was worth my time to do it? So you're not walking away from doing a weekend of commentary and feeling like you ripped yourself off.
Exactly. That's basically the main point of it. Although it is hugely important to have your own evolution through the craft that you're putting into, like you said as well.
Yeah. Yep.
So, how long have you been organizing events?
So the first tournament I ever organized was actually at my mom's house when I was a kid. I was like 16, so 2009.
Yeah.
I had a big tournament for Halloween, and a lot of people came from New York City, from Maryland and Virginia. Like, a good amount of people showed up. Some really good players were there.
Yeah.
Um, and that was really cool, and it was fun. Like, it was the first time I'd ever decided to do it. I had some help from like more experienced TOs in the region, and yeah, suddenly there were just like 60 people in my fucking house. But that was it left an impression on me, and then I started kind of like helping out with Apex. I wanted to like help the tournament be better.
Mm-hmm.
I did a lot of work with them. Did some Brawl locals in like 2011, and then like you know when I really started to step into like more of the TO role with TO Joe and EMG. That was in 2018. I officially joined the team, and Joe convinced me to do a major in Tristate with his help, and really, you know, him spearheading the project. Like Joe's always been the mastermind behind everything. He's like the top guy, and you know, I've just been like lending my talents and connections and like vision to the projects ever since. Like I'd always helped him with Gommel, but not like a lot, you know, not like super involved. Just like, oh yeah, like I'll go do this or hit this guy up or something like that. But it became a lot more official after 2018 when I really like actually joined EMG. So yeah, like that was the beginning of the serious TOing arc. So about 6 years, but add another 9 years on top of that for just doing smaller stuff or you know, just being involved with other tournaments.
I get it. So, how hard it was to play in a tournament that you were also organizing?
Too hard, honestly. I don't like mixing commentary, competition, and organization at all. It's very distracting because I feel like at the end of the day, the one that I like pride myself on the most is how I do in the bracket, right? So I don't want to make myself feel bad because I busted out in bracket and then like just be feeling like shit while running a tournament or while commentating for hours at a time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why, like, you know, going back to the very beginning when we were talking about how I'd stopped competing as much and focus more on the back end stuff, like that's definitely why it's like, it's too hard to do well and run the tournament and also have to show up at a certain time to commentate, right? So, yeah, I don't like doing it. It's a lot of stuff for the mind to handle.
Yeah, for sure. Uh, has it ever happened the typical casual player be like, while you're playing, knowing that you're the TO of them touching your shoulder and it's like, hey, there's a free TV, can I play? Uh,
I don't think anyone's ever interrupted me mid-set.
oh shit, good.
That's pretty good.
That lucky for you, that happened to me at least twice.
Damn.
Yeah, it was awful. It was like, oh shit, really? And then I looked back at the game and I really lost, and I went, ah, fuck.
Gamers lacking social awareness? No way.
Yeah, that tough luck. Or worse than that, a player being like, "Can I grab this Joy-Cons while playing?" And then it's like, "Oh shit, not this type of players."
No, man. Yeah, that's just how it is.
It is.
And
Or,
if that happened to me, I probably would have stopped playing at
sure.
tournaments that I ran even sooner.
For sure, for sure. But I mean, I think that you got in Smash 4 and mainly in Ultimate, the Pro Controller situation.
Oh, like just how do I feel about the legalization of that in general?
No, the like people not unplugging or not disconnecting their controllers mid set.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, dude, it's so annoying. Like, low key, man, I feel like I would rather just wireless controllers be banned, but I know that it's way too late for that.
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, the Switch has this option of disconnecting your controller on the menu of the Switch. So unfortunately, people that are not doing it is just people that are lazy.
Yeah, it's still just an extra step, though. Like, quite honestly, I don't understand why anyone would want to risk their tournament life on a wireless controller. Could be input delay, it could be signal interference. You could end up getting DQ'd out of the tournament because your pro controller is the one that pressed the home button. Like, I don't know, man. I would never want to do it personally, like as a player. But yeah, I mean, it's just the era we live in. Like, so many Ultimate players are Switch kids, right? They didn't grow up playing on GameCube controllers. They're gonna have the wireless controller because that's what they had at home, and that's what they're used to playing on. So I get it.
For sure, for sure. Or so what was behind the idea of the let's make moves and their respective iterations?
So, like I had said, after I joined EMG, Joe kind of convinced me to run a major in Tristate. I think, on one hand, he wanted to expand EMG's operations and take the team to the next level, and picking up an American TO / commentator / community figure and stuff was a step into that. And it's like, why not? If Max knows all the people in Tri-State, like, we could probably host a big tournament there, and that would be good for Max and it would be good for EMG. Yeah. So that's one aspect of it. And then also, the night that we conceived of doing the tournament was outside of the E3 Invitational for Ultimate. We were just like, we had gone to the one in 2014 just to spectate, and back then when we were both very active Brawl competitors, we had been hoping that we would get invited to play in it. Like, we were players and community figures and leaders and stuff, and we didn't get to participate. Then it happened again for Ultimate, where it's a bunch of people that we're homies with are in there working with Nintendo, having the time of their lives, and we're here at a fucking hookah bar, on the outside looking in, right? And we were just damn, this sucks, when is it going to be our big break or whatever? We want to take this to the next level and make it feel like we got recognized for our part in building this and stuff. So that's when Joe was like, yo, fuck it, man, let's do a fucking tournament in Tri-State, it'll be sick. And I was like, I don't know. But eventually, he just kept saying, no, we should do it, man, let's make some moves. And I was like, oh shit, let's make moves. We say that all the time already, let's just name the tournament that. And kind of drawing that connection, that one little spark of making this cool phrase that we say all the time into the name of a tournament that actually sounds kind of good as a tournament name. Now I want to do it. I was so against it before, or I was reluctant to do it before, but now I'm all for it. Sometimes it's all it takes is that little kick of inspiration. We were fucking stoked. We're yeah, fuck it, man. We're doing it. So a couple months later, it was only 6 months later, we actually just fucking launched the tournament, and it went great. And then we kept doing it. So that's how it all started.
Awesome. Yeah, as a viewing experience, the LMVM are some of my favorite tournaments to watch. So it's an amazing it's amazing that you like says fuck it, let's just do it. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you for that.
No,
Uh,
man, thank you. I think like that's kind of the energy that we want
mhm.
to have at the event, right? Or that's the energy that we want the event to have, where it's like, yo, like this is like for the people, by the people, and it's just it's hype because you guys are hyped for it, and like because everyone wants to go and stuff. Like it's just the place to be. And I think even though like Genesis and SmashCon and stuff are like bigger than the Let's Make Moves events, I think we have the biggest heart.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, yeah.
That's why I drive so much into it, like as an spectator, because it has heart, it has passion. And that's
Mhm.
amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
man. I'm glad that it gets through to people. Like I'm glad they see it because I've heard it before too. Like like yeah, there's Genesis and SmashCon, but this shit is so fucking cool. Also helps that it's in New York, which is just like a great place to run a tournament.
yeah, I mean, I kind of wish more people from LATAM would go to the to this to this tournament series. I mean, it is much easier to go for them to go to Miami for sure for the tournaments, and they have a blast as well. I
Mhm.
just wish they could go to New York for the main series of events, you know.
No,
But
I
it's
feel that. It might be surprisingly affordable if you book your ticket at the right time, just because like our airports are so busy. I guess so
mm,
many people fly into New York in general that you might be able to get a pretty good deal on a flight. Also,
mm,
the hotel is way cheaper than the Miami one.
fair enough, fair enough. So you're also currently in Luminosity Gaming. How were you signed by them, and how was your perspective towards this new entity signing so many people for this team?
So back when LG had started to pick up players, like it was Tweak and Leo first. Well, it was Meister first actually, and
Yeah.
but after they had signed Tweak and Leo, EMG was in a spot where like we had been previously acquired by a company, and quite honestly, they didn't do a great job, um,
Shit.
like helping our business or anything.
Mhm.
And Joe ended up buying the company back, and we had full ownership again. But we were like, fuck, like how do we get like stability into this, right? Like we're not getting paid to do this. It's just like all venue fees and whatever we're able to make. So, in order to keep doing this at the level that we've been doing it, especially at like age 30, we gotta turn this into something that makes money.
Yeah.
Just simply put, like we got to be able to eat and also focus as much of our time as possible on these events to
Yeah.
make them great. So, um, when I saw that they had signed Tweak and Leo, I also saw their player manager, Crucy, was somebody that followed me on Twitter. And I think I actually had followed him too. I think he was like a viewer of my stream way back in the day or something.
Mhm.
But we had a connection there. And I was like, you know what, man, fuck it. Like, let me just hit this guy up and see if we can get in talks with them. Because maybe if they're signing players, they'll want to sign TOs and like really invest into the Smash scene. And like, the price of getting in is not all that high. Like, I think, the salary we would take is probably less than what the top players are taking. And, we might be able to make this work. So, I mean, at first we thought like, let's try to get acquired. Like we had talked to other esports teams about like fully acquiring EMG, and we could be like the tournament arm of their business. So it's like how we initially went to LG. When I hit Crucy up, I was like, yo, man, like, do you think like, the higher ups at LG would be interested in this? Like, let's get a meeting together. And, right before the meeting, we were like, like maybe instead of like, if they don't want to buy EMG, maybe they would want to like partner. And,
Mhm.
we just like effectively are sponsored TOs, right?
Yeah.
That was Joe's idea. It was very smart of him to come up with that angle. And when we had the talk, initially like they were kind of like, I don't know about like buying out a team. That's like a big investment up front and stuff. And then we were like, all right, well then how about like, you sign us and we'll put the events in your name and we'll partner up and you guys can like sell sponsorships for us, which will make everybody some money.
Mhm.
And yeah, that was kind of like the genesis of it, and it ended up working out. They're like, you know what? Yeah, we do really want to invest in Smash. Like we just picked up the two of the best players in the world, so let's see what this would look like. And they obviously had commentators and content creators too, like EE and Coney. So yeah, they just wanted to come into Smash in like a very holistic way, and I think it ended up making sense for everybody. So yeah, things worked out pretty well, and that's how we got where we are now.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, but was it kind of like weird to change the name of of both of the even of the EMG series? Like the
Honestly, no.
Really?
Just because, like, even internally, like, even the LG guys still call it Let's Make Moves. Like, we still call it Let's Make Moves. I call it Let's Make Moves when I'm on commentary. Like, I think everyone knows the deal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
and even in, like, the first tweet I made after we got signed, I was like, don't worry, guys. It's still Let's Make Moves. Like, no, they're not going to be uptight about it. But it makes sense for, like, a, acquisition of sponsorships on their end, because it's like LG is trying to say like, hey, this is our product, like, and obviously they have way more like sales and marketing experience than we do, so it's totally fine. It's been a very easy change. Like, we got new logos and stuff, but that's pretty much it. The spirit of Let's Make Moves is still very much there. It hasn't changed. I don't think anyone's been like, oh, it's corporate now. It's like, nah, dude. I mean, Luminosity is a very highly esteemed team, but they're not like Microsoft or some shit. They're not going to like sanitize the event.
Exactly. The heart is still there, and the passion is still there, and that's what matters.
Mm-hmm. And it's still like the same acronym, which really helps. That was part of our pitch. It was like, yo, instead of Let's Make big moves, we could do Luminosity Makes Big Moves. And they're like, oh, I kind of like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what are your perspectives towards other platform fighting games and their lack of longevity and lasting impact?
Oh man, I really wish that they would be better received by the player base. Like, I have so many thoughts on this as someone who's played a lot of them. So, first of all, it really depends on what the game plays like, right? Like, the first indie platform fighter I really ever gave any time to was Slap City. Ooh. And that was in the time between like Smash 4 and Ultimate. Yeah. And I was like, oh man, I hope Ultimate plays like this. Like, I hope you can wave dash and do all the shit that you can do in Melee and then Slap City, because like this is what's hype in platform fighters. And then Ultimate came out, and it wasn't like that at all. So I made my own mod to play like that, but it still just wasn't scratching the same itch. And then I think really the first big non-Smash platform fighter came out, and that was NASB 1.
Yeah.
And I saw that it was made by the same people that made Slap City, which I really loved. So I was like, yeah, I trust their vision. Like, this is going to be fucking awesome. I see the mechanics. You can wave dash, like, you can combo. And that game came out, and I fucking loved it. Like, say what you will about that game. Like, yeah, the graphics are shitty, but oh my God, it was so fucking fun. And it was something different too. Like Rivals 1, I didn't really like so much because it was just Smash, but without shielding and ledges and grabs. NASB had all of that stuff, but it also broke the mold a lot more than Rivals did, I think. And it also had very popular IP. So even in a way that Slap City didn't step out of the box, NASB did. And I think it just all worked so well. So I really love that game, but I think it left such a bad first impression on people for several reasons. Like, first was the whole like community talking about, oh, is this going to kill Smash? Like, are they going to put money into it? And like, since Nintendo won't, is this what we're going to play now? Like, who knows? The famous HBox thumbnail calling it the Smash killer that HBox himself didn't even make. That kind of shit. And then when the game came out, it was also a disaster. Like, it was very unbalanced. There were infinites and like stupid shit in the game, bugs, whatever. But for me, I was like, oh man, I know they'll fix it. Like, it's going to be fine at the end of it. And it was. Like, they patched the game a lot and fixed it. But like, the Smash audience was already so sour on it from the beginning. And I think also, like, particularly Ultimate players, they just have this weird chip on their shoulder because, like, none of the new games that come out try to be like Ultimate. They all try to be like Melee. And Ultimate / Smash 4 / Brawl have always been that little brother to Melee, where it's like, oh, well, they've been so mean to us forever, so we're never going to play their game, or we're just going to, like, sneakily talk shit about their game, whatever. And then, oh, you tried to make Melee, and look, it fucking sucked. Like, haha, I knew this game would fail, and like they were preying on its downfall, basically. So there was just a lot of hostility towards NASB 1, like, even before it came out, but especially after it came out. And I think that kind of just, like, there was no crossover, right? Because Melee players, they're going to stick to Melee because they've been playing it forever. And then Ultimate players don't want to play the games that are not Smash because they're going to be completely different than what they know. It's going to be more like Melee than like Ultimate. So why would they switch? And then what came out after that? It would be Multiverses, I guess, right?
Yeah. Multiverses.
So Multiverses I never really loved. I liked the beta version better than the full release, that's for sure. But I did play it.
I think
I did play it. I put a lot of time in. I got like ranked number 3 Taz in the world, which was cool. And like I try hard, and some of my boys, they were like number 1 on the ladder, and they would carry me in teams, and I'd get like some nice climbing in with that. So I had fun with it, but I was never like, oh, I'm gonna fucking go full-time Multiverses and like be a content creator and a competitor and a commentator and all that. I was just like, whatever, I'll do some shit for it. We ran some tournaments for it back in the day too, which was pretty hype. With the company that EMG used to be with. That was pretty cool. So, yeah, I mean, it didn't really like speak to me though, because it was just, it was different than Smash, but like in a bad way. It didn't have enough of the core stuff that made Smash fun.
For sure.
Then eventually that game kind of died off, and of course they took it offline. And then we got NASB 2, which I fucking really loved. I actually was a beta tester for the game. It was cool seeing them like rely on a lot of top players from NASB 1 for input. I also ran a summit for NASB 1, by the way, and like competed seriously. Like I won all my locals for that game. I won a couple tournaments. And then I ran that summit in my house, so I had all the top players over, and we put on like our own little bootleg summit. It was so fucking fun. It's called the Hidden Temple. If you guys have never watched it, I recommend checking it out.
I saw it. I saw a lot of your tweets and posts about it, and a couple of videos about it. It looked pretty fun.
Yeah, it was a very difficult tournament to run though, because like by then I had been to the Ultimate Summits, and I was like, oh, like there's a whole like hospitality management component of this, right? Like I got to book all the players' flights. I got to, have food for them. Like we fundraised from the community, used a lot of the money to like keep everybody, fed and fly them out and get them a hotel and shit. So there's a lot of stuff going on with that. It was a very like involved process.
Yeah.
But it was so rewarding to do the event. Like it actually felt amazing to put that together. And then, when NASB 2 came out, because of like all the stuff I had done in NASB 1, both like as a player and an organizer and commentator and shit, they asked me to test it, and I was like, yep, I'm all for it. And then that game came out, and I think it was in a way, way, way better state than the first one, right? The graphics were better, it was less buggy, the balance was better, but there were still some big flaws with it, and I think people felt a little bit burned by the last one because it cost $50 and it came out with a bunch of glitches and stuff, and like a similar thing happened with this one. And it just ultimately, like, didn't really stick around as it should have. It's still alive, like it's small, but people still play NASB 2 and 1, actually. That game's having a little bit of a renaissance now. But like the game was great in my opinion, and I loved slime canceling, and obviously it had all the melee movement, which is really fun for me. But it just didn't get to stick around. Then we had Multiverses full release, which is just fucking shit, and I don't really need to say much more than that. I played a lot of it, though. I played a lot. It just fucking wasn't that fun, and it was just something I do. But now we have Rivals 2, and we're in the era of Rivals 2. I'm a fucking believer in Rivals, man. I was a believer in NASB 1 and 2, and I think even to a higher degree, I'm a believer in Rivals because it seems like the community really is buying into this one a lot more.
Yeah.
Like, even though you don't have like Nickelodeon characters to kind of sell copies to casuals, like you do have Ludwig behind the company that published it, and he's got massive reach. I know that he's going to do the right thing in terms of like the esports scene for the game, at least, until it's too much money for no reward. Like he's going to at least try to push this game to his massive audience and run cool events for it like he already has been. And the team, they made Rivals 1. They're a bunch of former Smashers or like platform fighter enthusiasts or former Rivals competitors who really love the game and want it to be the best that it can possibly be. So I think you could even see just from the Kickstarter raising like $2.5 million or something, that people are very passionate about this because it's not like Nickelodeon pushing it out. It's people that or like you're 1 or 2 degrees separate from them. It's super fucking cool to see that, and I have a lot of faith that this game is going to be here to stay. So I also am a fiend for playing it. Like I for a long time was playing the shit out of it. Right now I've been a little busy and I haven't played as much. But
Hmm.
yeah, I fucking love Rivals, and I hope that at least one of these games sticks around, right?
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
oh, Brawlhalla, I guess I never really got too involved with that game, but they're doing great. They have their own little scene and a lot of like support from the developers and stuff, which is great to see.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, Rivals 2, at least, I haven't played it yet because I don't have any uh, friends that have Rivals 2, or at least friends that will allow me to go to their house and play Rivals 2
Right, right.
because of the long distance and shit. But it looks really fun. It looks pretty hype, and I'm glad that a lot of people are gravitating towards this amazing game.
Yeah, same. It really deserves all the success, and I do hope it sticks around. Like,
Sure, that yeah.
yeah, I think the toughest thing is just that you know, ultimate players, there's not as much there for them, and
Hmm.
that's like currently the bigger community than melee, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, because it has that melee-esque engine.
Yeah.
But I think it's like a lot easier to play than melee because it's got more forgiving mechanics and a buffer and all that. So I would say just give it a shot, man. If you're an ultimate player and you've never played one of these wave dashy platform fighters, like find out why all of them try to be like melee. Like you'll see when you play, you'll be like, oh, this is fucking fun. Like I can combo, I can move around. Like it's not as hard as I might have thought it was.
Yeah.
So just give it a shot, and I think you might like it more than you expected.
Yeah. For a long period of time during last year, I was like, man, I fucking wish I there was a rivals tournament in my scene, and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it myself with a friend,
Mm.
and we hosted the biggest rivals tournament in Argentinian history, and it was pretty fucking fun. It was pretty shitty at the same time because connecting controllers of rivals was pretty tedious, and it definitely um, backtrack the ultimate tournament at the same time, but it was fun. It was amazing.
Yeah, dude. That's the hardest thing for the game. I think is that it's on PC only right now,
Hmm.
and for logistical reasons, it's just very difficult to run PC games. Like they're
Yeah.
expensive to rent. There can be weird technical issues that either hold up a tournament or just completely prevent it from happening in the first place, right?
Yeah.
But I think they will eventually come to console. That would be a
Sure.
great thing for them. Like if they had launched with console. But I also have a feeling that it would run terribly on the Switch. Like Nasby ran like shit on the Switch for both games. And like I would never run a tournament for that game that wasn't on a PC.
Yeah, for sure. So we've been talking a lot with Max Ketchum. Now I want to talk with Maximilian for a little bit. So tell us what you like to do besides playing video games.
Uh I would say that gaming is overwhelmingly the majority of my life,
Hmm.
whether it's playing or doing the tournament stuff and traveling to do it for commentary.
Yeah.
It's like probably like 90%. But my other hobbies, I play the piano and I kind of play the drums. I
Mm.
was big into piano as a kid just
Hmm.
because that's like what my mom made me do. And I stopped when I got really, really, really into games in like middle school. But then I picked it back up in college, and now I just kind of play like casually. I'm not a concert pianist by any means, but I can play the chords and I can jam. So I love doing that. Um, I taught myself how to play drums a couple years ago, which has been fun.
Cool.
And then I like longboarding. I don't do it all that much now because I'm old and I got bad knees. But every year at SmashCon, my boys and I will bring our longboards and we'll like skate around the parking lot because there's some good hills there, which is really fun.
Cool.
Um, I love cats. I have seven, and
Shit, 7 cats.
yeah, I love hanging out with them all day. They're all really friendly and cute. I had two, and then there's like a little family of strays outside, and I took the
Mm.
babies in. So that's how I got
Oh,
five more.
that's cute.
Yeah.
What are the names?
So my old cats are Paul and Tucker. They're some chunky boys. They're like 13 years old. And then I have two separate litters of kittens. One of them, they're all related. The
Hmm.
the little ones. So Bird and Lucy are the older two, and then Bird Junior, Jumper, and Randy are the other three.
That's so sweet. I also have 3 cats with my wife. One is outside because just fucking hate sometimes being indoors. Is Kaira Saya. Then is Mirinda, the only male one in the house. Mindolace, and it's a mama's boy for sure. And then there's Seth Ivy, Seth for Sephiroth, of course.
Mhm.
That is hiding under the chair right now because she's a shitless cat that she gets scared easily.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, so yeah, it's under the table right now.
That's so
Um,
cute, man. I got all 7 of my cats hidden in random places in my room. They're,
that's so sweet.
yeah.
Um, so when I got into your Metafile profile, it said that you graduated in esports business administration. Care to give us more insight into the career?
Oh yeah, so I was actually a adjunct professor for that. I was not
Mm.
a. That's not what I studied in school. I taught a class one time. Joe and I like were co-teachers in. Uh, it was part of the business program at Durham University, which is like near Toronto.
Mm.
They had invited Joe to be actually. I think our former boss from when we used to run the Collegiate Smash League. He was doing the job, and then he passed that off to Joe, and Joe was like, "Hey man, like you want to do this with me, and like we'll split the pay and stuff." And I was like, "Oh fuck yeah, dude!" So yeah, it was cool. I got to be like a teacher about TOing basically, and running events and like marketing and shit like that. It was pretty interesting. My own college degree is in political science, so it's
Mm.
completely useless. It's an undergraduate degree, and I didn't go to law school, so yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so this next question is a little bit personal. So if you don't want to get into it, it's perfectly fine. But in what ways has the pandemic affected your overall life outside of Smash, outside of gaming?
Bro, I'm gonna keep it real. Like, I kind of enjoyed lockdown. Like, it was fun just being inside and gaming all day. And like, now you don't have the guilt from society about it. It's like, yeah, this is what you're supposed to do. Actually, I'm like, oh, sick, dude. That's what I was gonna do anyway. Um, I
Yeah.
think that said, it also made me a little bit more of a hermit. Like,
Mm.
I'm definitely a gamer, but I'm still a pretty social person, and I like to go out. But during COVID, it was like just almost 2 years of not being allowed to go out, and I was like, oh, well, I could get used to this, and I did. So since then, I really haven't been as much of a go outside type of person, which I guess is kind of bad. But yeah, I mean, it was fun while it was ongoing. Honestly, like my job was affected. Like we were running the collegiate Smash tournaments as a full time gig, and because we couldn't have tournaments anymore, like our job just kind of disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that said, I got quite a good amount of money from unemployment. Shouts to the state of New Jersey for taking care of me. And I was like, oh, you know what, man? I'm just getting paid to fucking game at this point. Like that's awesome. So yeah, I would say personally, I did not have the worst time with COVID. I didn't have any relatives like die during that time or anything like that. So if I come off as insensitive to somebody who did have like a family tragedy, I'm sorry. I'm just speaking about my own experience.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I definitely, my heart's with you. That shit fucking sucks. But
Mm-hmm.
in terms of how it affected my own life, it was overall not as negative as I would have thought. Like it was
Sure.
scary at first when we didn't know if like you could even go to the grocery store without dying. But when we realized like, oh, we can just get delivery all the time, and like here's the rules of the virus, like this is how it works. It ended up being pretty fun.
Yeah, I get it. Although, for me, at least, so talking about my personal experience, first and foremost, for me, the first few months of the pandemic were rough, because the relationship between me and my parents weren't as good at the time.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, the pandemic was really important for me because I met my wife during the pandemic.
Mhm.
Shout out to Tinder, by the way.
Hell
Uh,
yeah.
so I met my wife through Tinder thanks to the pandemic, and I think that if it weren't for the pandemic, if I weren't because there was a huge lockdown in Argentina, I think that I wouldn't have met her because in any other type of situation. But and also speaking of delivery, actually, I haven't done a delivery in the pandemics until October, I think, because my parents were and still are really against delivery system.
Mm.
So it wasn't until my wife, my now wife, back then my girlfriend at the time, was like, man, I'm hungry for Venezuelan food, and looked up some Venezuelan food on like the states is DoorDash,
Mm.
and I was like, this place looks nice. Let's just order some food there. And I was like, are you sure? I think my mom's gonna kill me, but sure, then let's do it. And it was pretty awesome. And my mom was like, fuck, you order food? Fine.
That's funny as hell.
It is, and nowadays I found out about the miraculous thing that is delivery. Um,
Oh, dude, we were spamming that back in the day. I also love Venezuelan food, like tequeños and cachapas and stuff. Like,
mm,
fuck yeah,
yeah,
that's some good stuff.
it is some good stuff. By the way, my wife is Venezuelan, so it is some really fucking good stuff. It's kind of weird that you know about cachapas now that I think about it.
Nah, dude, we live in a very multicultural area over here. Like, it's like the city I live in is like 80% Latin American,
I
and
mean,
I lived in New York City for a long time too. So you get everything there.
yeah, I mean, I get it, but cachapas is not even that common here, so it's kind of interesting that you mentioned cachapas out of every other Venezuelan food. So it was like, wait,
That's
what the
funny.
fuck?
Yeah, I think there's actually a little store in New York. There, it's a chain. It's called like Cachapas y Mas,
Hmm.
and it's just like a little Venezuelan like snack
That's
store.
awesome.
They all kinds of like delicious baked goods and cheesy stuff. Man, that shit is fire.
Yeah, it
But
is. I
yeah,
bet I fucking bet it is. It's great it's interesting and great that you know about that stuff because that's something that I eat almost like I eat arepas like almost every week. So it's fucking amazing that the Americans are knowledgeable and it's like Venezuela
nah, yeah.
conquering the world. But yeah, it's fucking amazing. So here's the last section of the interview, the lightning round questions. Here's the moment where not necessarily have to answer these questions as fast as you can, but nevertheless, it was in a specific stage of the interview. I could throw these questions at random. So,
Sure,
Max Ketchum, are you ready?
I am ready.
You sure?
I'm definitely sure.
Fuck yeah, let's go. So first and foremost, what was your character? They mean this means a character that you hate fighting, even if the matchup was favorable for the characters you mained.
Hmm. Oh, that's a good question. Right now in Rivals, it's Crag. I play
Mm.
Fleet, who's really good against Crag. It's definitely his worst matchup, but I still fucking hate that character, man. He's such a little bitch. Um, and then in Smash, I probably Kazuya. Yeah,
Mm.
definitely Kazuya. I think Aegis does really well into Kazuya, but he's such a broken piece of shit.
What about in Smash 4 though?
Smash 4. Mm,
Smash 4 or Brawl? One of those.
oh, let's see. In Brawl, Meta Knight beat everybody, so truly it's about who did I hate the most.
Sure.
I don't even know, man. I think I was too privileged in Brawl from playing Meta Knight. I just like no matchup really phased me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that all that stuff is too far in the past, I think, for me to remember. But definitely Crag and Kazuya.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So, milk before cereal?
Hell no, dude. I don't know if you know the lore on this. That whole thing with Mr. R started because of something my boss said to me at the time. I
Really?
made a tweet that was like, my boss just told me he pours his milk in the bowl before his cereal. Like, I need to find a new job. And then Mr. R quote tweeted that and said, "What do you mean? That's how you're supposed to do it." And then it took off from there. And everyone's like, "Yo, are you on crack, bro? Like, what's wrong with you?"
I mean, I technically do milk before cereal, but I don't do it from a bowl. I do it from a cup.
I gotta go, man.
Please hear me out. If I do it from a cup, the cereal will. If I put the cereal first and then the milk, if I do it from a cup, because I fucking hate eating milk, eating cereal from a bowl. I fucking hate it. It's just uncomfortable as hell.
That's
So,
interesting.
uh,
Anyway, continue.
if I eat it from a cup, and if I put the cereal first and then the cereal will stay in the bottom, and it will be just a fucking mess. So
Mhm.
it's much more comfortable if I pour the milk first, and if I need more milk and or more cereal, I'll just put more, and it's great.
Look, man, I've argued this way too much over the years that I can't even like with Mr. R specifically. We've gone for hours about it. I don't have any energy left in me to judge anymore, so I'm happy for you. Whatever works.
Fair enough. Although I put him up to notch, and I do it with coffee as well, like coffee
You
with cereal.
have cereal with coffee. That's interesting. I love
Yeah,
coffee and I love cereal, so I might be down to try that. That
yeah,
actually sounds kind of good.
it is pretty fucking good. So what is your favorite video game?
Of all time,
Maybe top three
that's
if
a,
it is too fucking difficult.
I feel like just in general, it's got to be Smash, right? Like Smash is what's got me this far in my life, and like I've played so many hours of Smash compared to everything else. But as a franchise, it's hard to say that. And also, I don't like Ultimate, and I don't play Melee anymore, and I don't play the other ones anymore. So
Hmm.
I'd say just like the concept of Smash. But other honorable mentions would be like Pokemon in general, Fire Emblem in general, but specifically Fire Emblem 6 is my favorite one. I just uploaded a video talking about the tier list in that game yesterday. I know like nobody has played that shit. I just did it for me. But that I love Fire Emblem and Pokemon. And I play TFT a lot. I was playing it before we jumped into this interview. I put countless hours of that into that as well. I've gotten like Challenger before in TFT. So yeah, it's high up there for me. And then Maple Story. It's an MMO. I don't know if you know what it is, but it's like a basically like 2D World of Warcraft or something like that. But it's really fun. It kind of feels like Mario Bros. And World of Warcraft put together.
As a TFT fan, were you hoping for Heavy to be put into the game?
For who?
TFT, you mean Team Fortress, right?
Mm-mm.
Oh shit.
I mean, Team Fight Tactics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I,
it's like
I,
the League of Legends shit.
yeah, okay. Team Fight
So it's like
Tactics, interesting.
it's all the characters from League of Legends, but like
Mhm.
it's a turn-based strategy game
Yeah,
where you fight
I
other
know,
people. Yeah.
I know what Team Fight Tactics is.
Oh,
I
okay.
haven't heard it in years, but because one of my old roommates was constantly playing TFT and Legends of Runeterra on his PC or on his phone, and it was like, fuck, please go to sleep. It's 3 a.m.
Yeah, man,
Um,
that game has definitely had a mostly negative impact on my life, but it's fun, you know.
for sure. We're hoping for a League of Legends rep in Smash.
No, I didn't even really consider it possible, and I also didn't play TFT until after Ultimate was out.
Mm,
Actually, TFT came out after Ultimate was out, and I never played League, normal League ever. So,
good for you.
uh, yeah,
Good
yeah.
gracious for you. Well, was there any character that you wanted in Smash but never appeared yet?
Honestly, like as someone who loves Fire Emblem and Pokemon, and I guess Final Fantasy, like we
You're
got
good.
Cloud, we got a million Fire Emblem characters, and we got a million Pokemon. So I like was never left like, oh my god, like I can't believe they didn't put this guy in the game. But there are some that I thought would be cool, even if they're not from like things that I ever cared about. Like I've never played Halo, but Master Chief would have been sick just for the Halo fans. I never watched Dragon Ball, but Goku would have been sick because Dragon Ball Z is like a national or a worldwide fucking, you know, sensation, and I think it would break the internet if they put Goku in. Um, yeah, probably Master Chief and Goku, even though like I'm not a Halo or a Dragon Ball guy.
Interesting. Honestly, as you said, you're a Final Fantasy fan. I thought you were gonna say like any other a character from any other game that is not Seven.
Yeah, I think seven's like clearly the most iconic.
Yeah, for
My
sure.
favorites are 7 and 9. It would have been cool if like
Mm,
Zidane was in the game.
yeah,
I really like him, but I don't know. I think just having Cloud in general, like Cloud is definitely the coolest Final Fantasy protagonist. I don't care what anybody says,
and
even if
Sephiroth.
that's like a super generic answer. And Sephiroth is by far the coolest villain, like maybe in anything ever. So
It is. I mean,
yeah,
Sephiroth literally broke the hype level of Smash reveals ever. Like for
yeah,
sure.
yep. For me, it was Cloud because like after Cloud was already in the game, I thought it was more believable that
Hmm.
Sephiroth could be in the game, for example. But that said, like I still fucking lost my mind when he got announced too.
Me
Uh,
too. I was
yeah,
watching it with my wife, and we were like, Oh man, it's gonna be like 2 hours into the Game Awards until a Smash reveal is gonna come, and 10 minutes into us watching the reveal of the Smash character, we were like, oh shit, it's already in. We have to wait two
Yeah,
hours, and
yeah.
Sephiroth appeared, and I was like, holy shit, it's Sephiroth! And my wife was hyperventilating because she was like so hyped. And then she find out that Sephiroth was pretty shit. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, this character stinks.
Oh, dude, I wish he was good. He deserves to be top tier.
He
I'm
deserves
glad
it.
Cloud has been good both times. Like, imagine Cloud came out in Smash 4 and then he was shit. Like, oh, I'd be so hurt. At least we
Yeah,
got one, man. At least one of them's good in Ultimate.
at least one. I mean, my character that was like sobbing out of hype was Hero because I wanted Hero since Brawl. So I was so fucking hyped when Hero came out, and then I was fucking angry because Banjo-Kazooie came out, and I freaking hate Banjo-Kazooie. The game franchise just stinks. It's a whole it's a whole rant that I could give you in 10 minutes, but it's just bad.
That's so
Um,
funny. I didn't play much of it as a kid, but I kind of like Banjo, and I hate Hero in Smash because of the RNG,
Fair
and
enough,
I think he's stupid. But whatever.
understandable. So, entonces sabes hablar en español.
Un poquito,
Okay,
pero es más fácil uh, leer español.
claro.
Uh,
Yeah, I get it.
Entendí. Yeah. To hear it is hard because I'm
Yeah.
like, fuck, like, what did you just say? And then I got to have you repeat it like 9 times. I can read it much better than I can understand it, but I can, like, if you gave me a sentence written, I could read it back to you and it would sound like a white boy speaking Spanish, but it would sound like correct.
Yeah, I get it. Although, not gonna lie, a couple of players that I interviewed thought that I was just a white American boy because I look like one. But then I started speaking Spanish, and it's like, oh shit, you're not American, and I'm like, no, you thought I was American.
That's very funny.
It's kind of cringe, not gonna lie. But what has been the most random thing that you saw in a tournament? Whether it be a local or a major?
Mm. Oh, that's a really hard question, man. I don't think I could give you an answer right off rip just because, like, I'm just on the spot. I don't even know what to say, but I've seen some crazy shit over the years, that's for sure.
For sure, for sure. I get it.
Yeah, you'll have to get another answer out of me another time. But dude, I've been around all these weird gamers for like 20 years. Like, I've seen some cringe shit for sure.
For sure. Is your fast food tier list still the same after 3.5 years?
Oh, can you link it? I don't remember what I said 3.5 years ago,
You said,
but
for example, that In and Out was mid, and that Cane's was top tier, and that I think White Castle was trash.
yeah, I think I stand by all of those except maybe Cane's. I'm like a little bit less impressed with Cane's now that I know about Zaxby's. Zaxby's is way
Mm,
better chicken. Um,
yeah. Or no,
ta- if
I think that you also said that Checkers was top tier, like top of top tier.
Yeah, Checkers is fire. Is Taco Bell in the top tier?
If I recall correctly, it was like in A tier, not S tier.
Well, I would definitely put Taco Bell in S tier. I don't know what the fuck I was saying because I've always loved Taco Bell, but that's the goat. Taco
Well,
Bell, Chipotle, McDonald's, Checkers. That's probably my ultra top ones. I don't even know if Chipotle counts because it's like a different tier of food.
on that tier of food, you also said that Starbucks was S tier.
Yeah, so like I just like the coffee,
Hmm.
but also the ham and cheese croissant's pretty good. So
Okay.
like I fuck with Starbucks just because I'm a caffeine addict.
I mean,
Now I go to Dunkin' every day though.
it's weird because you said that Dunkin' was trash back then.
I used to think it was, and now I actually am a big Dunkin' appreciator. I might actually like the coffee more than Starbucks now.
I actually, a couple of months, I went to Chile and I got the opportunity to try Dunkin', and I was like, man, maybe not. And now that I may go to Chile next year, maybe I might have to try it because I'm still kind of like interested in trying it. I get
Yeah,
to see that.
I think it's kind of an acquired taste.
For sure.
I wasn't crazy about their coffee at first, and now I like it.
I mean, I am a caffeine addict, but I think that local coffee shops are better than Starbucks. At least here, I don't know how is it in the States.
Bro, I'm gonna sound so stupid for this, but I like never go to local coffee shops. I got a Dunkin' right down the street from me. I'm there every morning.
I mean, it makes sense.
I don't doubt that they have better coffee and like better stuff, especially like the food. But yeah, I mean, Dunkin' is so close that I'm just fucking always there. I don't even know where the local coffee shops are.
Fair enough. I think here is just local coffee shops. Weirdly enough, is one of the most profitable ventures into going starting. So it's definitely had it like for in the center of the city I live. There's like 7 of local coffee shops. Like
Wow,
it's bizarre, and none of them are like. So it's weird as fuck.
no, it makes sense though, because like if you're selling something that people are dependent on or addicted to, like you're gonna make money.
Yeah, exactly. So, do you have any tattoos?
I do not.
Shit. I actually have a Smash related tattoo.
Oh, that's fire. What is it?
I'm not just fucking sending it to you. It always has a interesting like reaction to it because not many people expect it.
Yeah, I'm down. Show me.
Let me check. Let me open Discord once again. Max Ketchum. There we go. So let me open Discord once again because it's taking a little bit of a while on my phone. Yeah, there we go. There it is.
That's so funny.
Thanks.
I would not have expected it to be an HBox one. Are you a big fan? I guess you have to be, right?
I think. Yeah. HBox actually got me into starting playing Smash and starting watching Smash, and
that's cool.
And I'm not a sub because Argentinian economics is not that good to be a current sub. So I was like, I think it's cheaper for me to go to one of my best friends and get that tattoo of HBox, and it ended up being really fucking good. And so yeah.
No, that's fire. I respect the dedication.
Thanks.
I mean, I fuck with HBox, man. Like, some people aren't crazy about him, but I think he has done so much for the scene, and he's honestly a really cool guy. Like, if you actually get to know him, he's great, and I love his stream too, man. I just be throwing that shit on sometimes. I love watching the tournaments. So shout outs to HBox.
Yeah, I wish I could interview one, and it's possibly one of the things that I wish for in life, like interviewing HBox, because it's possibly the person got me into Smash,
Yeah, and he's Argentinian, man. Maybe he would be down for it.
Here's the thing. Until he comes to Argentina, like once it's an American that has the Argentinian nationality,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I mean, he was born in Argentina, but after even before he got a year born, he went to the States and never looked back. So it's like, yeah, he's not an Argentinian nationality. That's cool, but it's hard for me to count it as Argentinian.
No, I get what you mean for sure.
So last question of the interview: who would like to nominate so they could come to a future interview?
Ooh, that's fun. I didn't know I would get to do that. Who would be fun for you to interview? You know who I think would give you a great interview? I think Charles would be great. So I'm going to nominate Charles.
Charles, the commentator?
Yeah.
Cool. So, here's where the interview is coming to an end. Thank you so much to Max Ketchum. If the public wants to look up your social media, where they go find you?
The only thing I really ever use is Twitter, and I don't even use that much anymore. But it's Max Ketchum with an underscore at the end. Cool. Some German bot account has Max Ketchum with no underscore. And I'm still waiting for his account to get deleted. But that's where you can find me. I also just have been randomly getting bored, and like when I'm just fucking geeking out about a game, I'll like make a long rant about it on YouTube. If you want to look me up on YouTube, just type in Max Ketchum, it'll come up. Like I said earlier in the interview, I just randomly made a 2-hour tier list video for Fire Emblem 6. I made a guide for ultimate players who want to play Rivals. But don't get me wrong, I'm no content creator. I don't consistently upload or anything. But maybe you'll just end up wanting to fucking hear what I have to say about some random shit. But yeah, don't expect frequent uploads or anything.
Fair enough. So for the people who are watching, don't forget to follow me on Twitch or subscribe to my YouTube channel so you cannot miss the chance of watching any other podcasts and content I make in the future. If you'd like to support me monetarily, you can subscribe to my Twitch channel or to support me monetarily on Coffee or e-sponsor. I will thank you greatly. Yeah, so we'll be seeing each other in a week per se, because it's my wife's birthday's week, so I'll be hanging out with her more than doing content. So yeah, thank you so much for watching the game, and bye.
Yeah, no problem, man. And great job with the interview too. You really had a lot of information and shit, and I think you did a great job. I'm fucking starving though, so I'm gonna go get dinner. Let me know when it's out on YouTube, and I'll retweet it and shit too.